Hello. I am not Wes Ford.
Oh.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Zach Helms, one of the producers of Tales of Terramir. Today we're celebrating the 1-year anniversary of our stream, so we're going to take a look back at how far we've come and just hang out for a while to chat about everything that's happened. We'll be poking around our characters and their backstories and share thoughts between the players and Wes, our GM. If you're joining us in chat, we have our other producer, Charlie Peter, also hanging out to field anything you may want to ask us too. Remember, you can find more episodes of this show by visiting us at talesofterramir.com. We stream live on Twitch, but you can also find us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook with our handle, Tales of Terramir. You can support us by subscribing to our Twitch channel, sign up for exclusive emotes, ad-free viewing, and much more. You can also subscribe for free with the Amazon Prime account. Just don't forget to reapply it every month to keep your streak going with us. Okay, enough of that. Time to say hello to the rest of our cast.
It's not easy, is it, Zach? Starting the whole thing up.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. I'm Wes Ford. I'm the GM for Tales of Terramir, and I also play Savamir Dankir, Sea Elf Cleric.
Hey, I'm Mike Jones. I play Gemma Ashenlight, Human Sorceress.
Hey, I'm Hannah Nye, and I play Willa Kettlewhistle, Gem Dragonborn Blood Hunter.
And I'm Justin Kirkwood. My character is Anton Darghost, Human Fighter.
Hi, friends. Rob Parkinson here. I play Razik Shikali, Panginian Rogue.
Great. So now, if we're ready, let's get into our discussion about Tales of Terramir.
Gotta get to a beach first. Hello.
No, don't mind us. We're just talking about beach episodes. Anyways, welcome back. So, episode 1 starts with all of our characters waking up in a prison wagon with no recollection of how they got there. We got our first look at a cast of characters. Gemma, Anton, Willa, Razik. So it very much begins like the game of Skyrim. What did y'all think about the beginning of that game?
Iconic.
Yeah.
This is gonna be controversial, but I really like Skyrim.
Oh.
Wait, are we talking
Mike,
about
you canceled for that one.
Are we just talking about
So welcome to our Skyrim podcast.
Yeah. I can just
I've
for
never played
myself, myself, that's one of the first adventures that I've started without, actually being like, oh, you need a tavern or having some sort of like set setting that you just wake up and we have no idea what we're in for, especially since it's such a new world. So that was kind of refreshing as far as like starting off a campaign.
Yeah, it's always nice when you're in the middle of things and then you have to figure out how you're going to work backwards to figure out where you are, how you got there, which
we never did.
Really
We tried.
Question.
We tried.
Well, we've kind of letting it fall by the wayside. We've been so busy with the fighting and exploring and going through a menu and making difficult choices that we kind of haven't talked about it or circled back to what happened to us.
And exploring Savamil's culinary preferences.
That's right.
Yes, that's high on our list of priorities, trying to get it exposed to more land meats, I think.
Which,
it certainly
by the
seems
way,
high
I
on
think
his.
we all agree is like one of our favorite aspects of our game so far. It's just like, and totally unplanned and unexpected, but just like exploring what that would be like for like a sea person to like suddenly be on land and having to try like all of these different meats of different animals they never had before, like what is that like?
Mm-hmm.
So that's been fun for me to play with, and
Yeah,
But
just
back
wait till he
to-
finds
back
out
to
about
the-
Aurochs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, back to the beginning of like totally was like a Skyrim start, but I'm glad that kind of threw you all for a loop as well, because that's what the intention was. But yeah, we never did go back. There is a reason why you don't remember things, but it's up to you to if you want to actually explore that or not.
Next
Or-
campfire session.
How we got roped in together. I think there were bits and clues and some vague things that were answered about, why some certain people were captured. But being grouped together, that was kind of odd. Even with Savamil, Savamil seems such like it doesn't seem like someone who would get arrested unless it was a racism, I don't know.
That's what I assumed it was.
Oh, see, let's lock him
I mean,
up,
sea elves are inherently kind of magical, so he was just thrown in jail as on site.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what I kind of assumed. That just we were all generally kind of magical. So
Just like the
we all got thrown
Empire.
in
Yeah.
to magical jail.
Yeah, it almost feels like we had some sort of past life. We've got some sort of history together we haven't even touched on or explored. So that's like I said, next campfire session, I think maybe we have a topic for discussion.
Next episode is just going to be everybody sitting around a campfire for 2.5 hours discussing their
Guys,
backgrounds.
I know we've been walking for 2 months, and we're so far away from where we first started and where we could probably find answers. But what do you think if we started asking those questions now?
It's been almost a
Do
month.
you
Just
do any of
Throwing
you
that
think
out
Okay,
your
so yeah,
character?
that's a good point.
Jeez.
What is the timeline so far? It's
Not long.
you're at almost a month of since the campaign has started in world. It's been almost a month.
So in
So that's
universe,
kinda
do you
where we're at.
think
We
your
started at the very
characters
beginning.
know each other character's last name? You've been together
Yes.
for a month. You figured that'd be
Yes.
something you should know.
I think
Right.
that Anton has mentioned it. Willa definitely gives a full introduction to everyone. I think that Gemma has been purposely trying to keep low key, and I think Razik. I don't remember you. I've been watching the episodes recently. I don't remember you actually outwardly saying your last name. It's
I'm
not
sure
a
I-
requirement to party together.
The Red Guard guy who I trust.
Red card.
The
You
Red
told
Guard
me
keep guy who I immediately trusted.
Oh,
because he's
Martin.
a-
Martin.
Yeah, Martin.
Oh,
yeah.
Martin Morris.
Martin.
Of
Morris.
The one character Anton has
Brent
trusted this
Watson.
entire campaign.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that
Still.
you didn't even trust your horse. You're like, I'm still a little.
He always pats him down for daggers before getting on.
Yeah, exactly. Great, good roll, RP, Justin. Good RP. Yeah, but I
So
feel like
I'm
the
curious,
further we get away from the
go ahead.
Empire, is it even going to be more relevant? Is it going to be as relevant too? Will it matter after we get out of the Empire why we're grouped together? You think? Is that something you can tell us?
I'm curious. I'm just curious.
You mean it? I mean, I don't know. I think it'll always be somewhat relevant because that's how you all met, right? So, is it worth necessarily exploring at this point? Unless you have to go back and try and figure out, or some other means. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's up to
Hypnotic
you. Up to
regression.
all of you.
Someone
Anybody
just
have that
asked us.
ability?
What was that?
I said hypnotic regression. Anybody have one of those abilities?
Jot that down.
maybe if I do, I've forgotten it.
Well, I'm actually going to be joining the campaign soon. And I'm going to be rolling a psychologist, so I should be able to help with that.
Great.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
So can
But
you actually tell
since
us?
we're go ahead.
No, go ahead, Wes.
No, please.
Okay.
No, you.
Good
Um,
podcasting.
Since we're on the topic of the beginning of the game, I was curious if there's anything our GM can tell us as to why our heroes all found themselves, amnesiacs waking up in a wagon, in a prison wagon.
Yeah. So there's it's funny because I didn't know, like, a lot of this campaign has been built just purely on as we go. And I think that's kind of the funnest part for me. The most fun part for me is like seeing how it's going to go. I have long-term projections, but I don't have it mapped out. This isn't a book we're playing through. This is a Dungeons and Dragons game. So there are some things I don't know how it's going to happen, some things I do. Anyway, moving forward, as we're like going through things, I kind of started us there with somewhat of an idea of what happened, but it wasn't fully fleshed out until probably a few sessions later. I was like, I should probably really flesh out, well, if they happen to ask why they don't remember everything, and all that stuff. And it does play into the story, and there are things involved there. What I can say is, outside of character, your characters might necessarily know this, but you might have seen already that the Empire, although they're very anti-magic, they're not afraid to use magic when it works in their favor. So that's all I'll say about that.
The tracker, we came across that, where they had this sort of magical link to the receiver device. So it's our first glimpse into that.
Yep.
Hypocrisy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm beginning to think this Empire might not be that great.
Oh, just now?
I'm beginning to think they might be kind of
Imagine
evil.
that.
See, I'm on the other side. I think we should make the Empire great again.
Here comes a psychologist guy with a red hat.
In that beginning, in that prison cart, some of you have some backstory together without going into much detail on that. But a lot of you were strangers to each other. So what do you think your characters would have thought of the others as they saw them newly in those cages?
Suspicious.
You're always suspicious, though, Anton. Justin, sorry.
And you're suspicious when you order drinks at a tavern, Anton.
Yeah.
Definitely ornery.
I feel
What
like,
was Razik thinking?
Oh, go ahead.
Especially with the agent kind of appearing too. That was a big moment of the scene.
You're talking about
as
the
a Panginian agent.
Yeah, the guy who gave me
Panginian
the
agent that showed up.
stone.
The female Panginian who showed up and rescued you all out of the cage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she, I think that she gave me like a sending stone or something. And it didn't give it to me, but she let me use it to communicate. Like, I basically told them that. I mean, I assumed like, I don't remember how I got captured either, but I assume I got like made during a job that I was doing. Razik's a thief. He steals magical items for his homeland. That's kind of his thing. They kind of wipe his memory so that if he gets captured, he can't like spill a lot of beans about like who he is. Like Panginen's like a really secret place, sort of isolated behind various like mountain regions in the southeastern part of the continent, right? And
Correct.
he is basically kind of like an expendable Jason Bourne type. And, I think that he just is used to rolling with the punches. And so when he woke up, I think that he was just like, well, I guess I got made. I better break out of here. And, just sort of like rolled with it. I think that's Razik's thing, is just like, he's very disattached from his own like mortal experience because like, memories can sort of be like taken and given sort of at will in Panginian, and he's very loyal to his country for the time being anyway.
Talk some details
Pretty
on
ethereal.
Razik. I'm kind of curious what he felt waking up in that cart as well, seeing Willa, because gem dragons hold a special place to his people.
Oh yeah, I was definitely a little weird about it. Razik was very like reverent initially. If you watch through the early episodes, you'll see a lot of like My Lady Gem Dragon and a lot of like White Knight sort of behavior. from Razik.
I thought that was just you
Um,
coming through your character.
That kind of slowly, well, that's true. That kind of slowly like fades as like, you know, more of her down home country wisdom sort of like grounds her as more of like a person to him, or like a dragon person to him rather. But
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite things is like Willa going from like this deific sort of like thing to like, well, shucks, y'all. Like, Mama always said, never eat yellow snow, and you know, like, I really love that.
Don't sleep with your cousins.
Don't sleep with your cousins. You'll end up with a webbed toe.
Best line of the game.
The
So
will
is there
is
any part of
that's
you-
why it's a thing.
Is there any part of you, Raz, that's still like Hannah Stanner?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I love Willa more now, but just in a more human way. You know, it's like when like a nerd like really puts like a person on like well, not a nerd, but like, you know, when like someone who's not good at talking to women like puts somebody on like a pedestal, you know, it's kind of like that, but it's like in reverse where I've like made her more human in my head because she's full of down home country wisdom.
Yeah, I feel like they're better friends now.
Yeah, it's more casual. It's not like
Yeah, there's not as many like strange like, oh, my lady, Gem Dragonborn.
Fedora.
it's
Um,
Fedora.
I think Willa.
It's Fedora.
My lady.
Keeps his mask.
I was
think,
definitely trying to make it cringe. I was like dialing up the cringe to like 8 or 9 at the beginning.
There you go. Yeah.
Me as a player, I was like, ooh, I don't know if like that's just Rob or if that's his character.
It's
So I
Fedora.
was a little-
On screen.
But I think it worked
We
well.
were all thinking that. Yeah.
Willa
Like,
definitely
okay,
ignored
alright.
a lot of it. So
Is this
Well,
game
that-
the first time
What
you
was
two played
Willa
together?
thinking?
I think that they played. You played in a bit part in one of our main campaigns, like with Rob. Like Rob played a one shot in our Wildmount game.
Oh yeah, when I was Navira.
Oh yeah. Rob did play a little bit in our.
okay,
not
yeah,
getting our
yeah,
homebrew
with
game.
with like the bigger group.
The grim
Yeah.
dark
Just a
halfling
couple episodes.
with a shadowed past.
But I think this is the first time that at least this group of people have all played in a long-term campaign together.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
And this is kind of Weston's first real long-term campaign ever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Did 2 one-shots before.
Yeah.
Played a couple things.
We did like a mini Deadlands game for a while, but this is like your first long-term D&D game,
Mhm.
so that's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
You were playing that table game of Saltmarsh for
Oh, right. Yeah. That went on for a
your
while.
first one. Yeah, your first character, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You guys, doing this regularly has helped me slowly become a little more proficient playing my character because it's not so few and far between like
Mhm.
before.
I feel like you settled into
It takes
Anton
time.
really well, too. Like in
I agree,
finding
yeah.
your space, and that you like have a really good idea of what Anton's directives are and what his goals and how he is before he got captured, and and where he's going now that he has sort of like this new mission on this
Yeah.
plate.
Yeah.
No, what really
well,
helped that? You
Become-
writing a backstory. You
Yeah,
writing
I wrote a pretty
a
elaborate
backstory
backstory.
helped you
And,
helped you lean you in.
yeah, for sure. And then you think about his upbringing. If he's in the military from being a small child, like he's never had to socialize like this before with non-soldiers. So it was a learning curve for him. But I feel like he's integrated into the group pretty well.
I think we slowly see that that apprehension build into more and more trust, especially after several bouts of combat, where you actually know that you can rely on some of the people that you're with trust them with your life. Essentially, that's kind of the feeling that I get.
Yeah.
After a few sessions, Anton really kind of opens up and says, "All right, you kind of have my respect now because you know your way around a blade and you're not going to stick it in my back." Essentially.
Yeah, switching from calling Raz Smiling Man and Willa Gem Dragon. It's a sign of transition there. Respect.
Yeah. Now you're basically
feel
like her
like-
dad. You're like her angry dad. Like you're
Like,
always
good
like,
or a
I
brother.
always imagine you like reading the newspaper and looking up and glaring at us.
I feel like he's more like the uncle who's really a little too into conspiracy theories and doesn't trust anything.
But all the theories are true, right? The Empire shit, right?
This whole
Yeah, I
fight
think we've
was
seen
a
a-
psyop.
I think we've seen a
If I
lot
was
of,
a Psyop.
If he's anybody's dad, he's like Gemma's dad. And it's kind of like referenced that a few times too, just because of the age disparity and wherever we go.
yeah, I think you tried to pass yourselves off like that with guards and such.
Seems natural-ish, as far as trying to an easy excuse, like hand wave excuse to be like, oh, this is why we're traveling together.
Yeah.
Excuse my dad, he's drunk right now. Or
I think we've seen a lot of personal growth with Anton and experiential growth, honestly, with Justin. Anton is learning to trust people, and Justin is learning how to use his superiority dice.
Find them on the ship.
But reeling it back a moment, I do want to finish off what we were talking about a moment ago of everyone's perspectives in the beginning, or everyone's characters' perspectives in the beginning of each other. I don't think we've yet got to Willa and Gemma.
Go ahead. Hannah. Willa.
Okay. Yeah. So, Willa wakes up on the wagon. I think her first impressions is that she's definitely really confused. She was on her way to Maple Crossroads, I imagine. That's kind of where I kind of left off her storyline, because I have a huge backstory for her as well. And she was on her way there, so I imagine at some point something happened. She wakes up, she sees everyone. I don't think she would be as afraid because she knows she's not guilty, and she kind of trusts the system a lot. She trusts people probably more than she should. And then she sees everyone there, so she's excited. She sees this older knight man who can probably teach her some things. She sees Gemma, who she hasn't met too many other like girls her age. I mean, she's a little bit older, but like girls her age. And then she sees Savamil and Razik, who are both like completely different looking people than what she's normally used to around her area, because she kind of just grew up on the farm, didn't go out too much. So I think that's kind of her perspective. So that's why she still doesn't want to kill people. She still very much trusts the system. Maybe she has a little bit more concern after like the people that have been going after Anton. So she's slowly kind of questioning things, but she still wants to do the right thing in the end. That's kind of where she's at and where she came from.
And what about Razik? Or her perspective on Razik, rather.
On Razik, I mean, she's not
Sexy
heard
beast,
too
white
much.
knight,
Creep.
Wow.
exotic.
I didn't say it. She hasn't heard too much about where you're from. Pangean.
Pangean.
He's Pangean from
Pangean.
That's perfect. Use that
From
in the
Pangean.
game.
Oh,
Like,
Pangean
use
from
that
Pangean.
as a Willa.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is he Pangeanin?
No, it's all one word. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
used
all
to
the
call it
same.
Pangina all the time. Wes was like, "That's not what it's called."
That's what I thought.
No, that's from this world.
That's what my brain wants to do. But
Yeah.
it's
I
I'm
understand.
spreading misinformation out there, like Anton suspects.
I love that Willa is so sure enough of herself and knows herself enough that when she wakes up, she's like, "Well, I didn't do anything wrong. What the hell am I doing?" She just knows that
knows.
she was just like, "Yeah,
It must be one of these guys.
exactly." Case
Yeah.
like a mistaken thing and a mistake.
I'm just
What about Gemma?
I'm worried that we're gonna like find a lab with like the original bodies of us, and we're all clones. Don't steal that idea,
Don't
Wes.
say that.
I mean, you
You
said it,
thought
so he
about
can't
it.
use it now.
Yeah, that's true. I protected
Exactly.
us. You're
We
welcome.
can
already-
write down
already
notes,
have a
like,
reason,
crossing
so.
stuff out.
Yeah, exactly. Like throws his,
It's like, no, Rob, that's stupid. And he's like, frantically deleting.
So, Gemma?
No, I already have a reason. So
I think at that point, Gemma had been traveling with Anton for a while and waking up in the prison wagon for different reasons. She was confused and scared. She's the type of girl that's probably her first time ever being in trouble, or even arrested of sorts, and then wasn't maybe paying attention too much about the people that were with her other than Anton, who was traveling with her up until that point. So I think her main focus was kind of like, where are we, how did we get here, and how do we get out of here? Because she knew that she was essentially captured by the Empire, which is something that she was trying to avoid at that point. And then we ended up starting there. So it was like, I got to get out. And, Anton, what are we going to do? And it was at this point in the story, she's fully trusting Anton for these sort of things because, she's never done anything like that. She also grew up on the farm and grew up as innocent as she could be, and didn't have any sort of experience with these sort of things. And that's why this whole campaign is kind of it's a new experience. It's frightening. It's almost like, Frodo going off and not having to deal with any of these things ever, or even having to think about it, and all of a sudden she's just thrust into this dangerous situation. And then people get killed around her, and I think the guy took a crossbow bolt to the eye.
Been from the Empire.
Yeah. And then she becomes a giant, shooting light out of her eyes, which was like really astonishing.
Fast forward to
that's just 1 month.
Yeah,
just 1 month.
Lots happened in a month.
Bread, and she became a potted plant, and she became 8 years old.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's a
metaphor.
Transformative
time.
Yeah, it's a metaphor for people.
It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for adulthood.
Right. It's just all these changes
puberty.
She doesn't understand. So.
Not that.
So weird.
Not that I necessarily want to tackle that recent event just yet, but I do think one aspect of what happened in our last episode ties into the beginning here. Is you mentioned that her hair turning red, and you said that Anton has seen this before.
Right. I guess.
Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Can we cover that part? Is that okay? Because I know we haven't discussed.
Yeah, might as well.
In the game, but
we're on topic.
Part of the reason that happened was when Anton had saved Gemma just outside of her own village. She has Imperial Knights after her, and she's trying to go into hiding. She got home, tried to pack up all of her stuff, and Anton has suggested that she not only cut her hair shorter, but also dye it black so that, just because with her bright red orange hair, she's, stands out of a crowd. So up until this point, and we haven't really had time to reflect on it, how I wanted to mention how you could start to see roots or patches, or how her hair was kind of choppy, because it was done hastily. But during her transformation, essentially, that the stuff that she used to dye her hair just kind of burned off and showed her true nature, which was kind of I think it was part of the transformative experience that she's going through, just to show that she's going from this one person to the next, and just another sign of that growth of her character that I wanted to portray.
She's turning red.
That's crazy. Dana, her sister also has red hair, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. So
cool.
Those are just some of the subtle things that I was talking to Wes before when we were doing some character development prior to the campaign. Just this is how they start off, and eventually when she gets to this point, these are the sort of changes that that could possibly happen, especially around this group who are familiar with one part of Gemma and then wanting to see the other side of her. It's a good detail that you caught, Hannah. That you remembered.
Razik has been a secret agent, and Gemma has just been a secret ginger.
Secret ginger. Yeah, his hair is going to turn black, though. Is what's going to happen.
So you guys all wake up in this cage together, but you're soon thereafter broken out by a mysterious person of kind. Who was that, and kind of how did you advance?
I think that's one of Razik's deals, right? Somebody sent
Yeah, one of
to
Razik's contacts.
save. Yeah, one of Razik's.
Yeah, we had a Pangean come and kind of act as a fixer, I think, for our little situation. Gave us the means to communicate back to my people, and then helped us get out of Dodge pretty much. But that's the thing about like the Pangean cells, is that like we're all very like the left hand does not want to know what the right hand is doing most of the time for safety. So it can be a little frustrating when you want straight answers from any Pangean. Because odds are they don't know him.
So how detailed was your backstory that you wrote for yourself?
For myself, what I know?
Yeah.
I know quite a bit, but I gave Wes pretty much carte blanche to pull out anything, because my whole thing is, I'm a born identity type. I have been pruned essentially for, this mission in order to be minimal risk to our people. I think that I definitely remember bits and pieces of my childhood. I remember my training years. I remember being a member of the Knives, and remember like eating with my comrades, but a lot of my more personal details have been pruned from me. So I do not know, for example, the names of my family members. I think I have flashes and images of faces and experiences, but I could not tell you where certain people from my family of origin live, for example. And that's to protect them. Because if the Empire were to fight me, or if the Empire were to like find me with these magical items and like torture me for more information, they won't be able to get anything.
Mm-hmm.
This was in part for something that Rob wanted to portray and wanted to play, something in this vein, but it also kind of worked on another level we saw in the beginning for me, because I was able to still keep Pangean mysterious and secret. So having him sort of coming into this without a lot of his memories still kept a lot of the secrets of Pangean while he could play a Pangean. That makes sense.
No, definitely.
So there's still
I think a
lot of mysteries to be unraveled there.
Yeah, and it helps. Like I kind of like play Razik very like, he's not like much like an assassin like type, like caricature. He's not like dark and brooding, and he's not like like super serious. And I think like a part of that is almost like there's this like extreme disattachment that he has to all of his experiences as he goes through like this life, because like these things can so easily be taken and given from him, like the memories that he's making, the friendships and attachments that he's forming. Like he really is, for many intents and purposes, like a tool, but he's self-aware about it, and he's trying to have a good time while he's doing it.
I mean, for what it's worth, I do think everyone of the party has by this point realized that Razik is a tool.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I've actually learned a lot more just now than I have throughout a lot of the campaign in regards to like Razik and how he sees himself, which is, I think, really interesting.
Well, nobody asked me questions about myself.
We don't.
Ask
a lot of each other.
Probably barely know each other's last names, so
yeah. I think there's been some poking and prodding. I know that through some of the episodes we've dealt with you having to come in contact with some of your contacts. So I think that there is sort of a picture there. But as far as like digging deeper to each other's past, we've only touched upon things like Anton messing with Avario and Jane, stuff like that, where we've had to actually confront that, and we demanded an explanation. Well, I guess we didn't demand an explanation, but he felt that he owed us an explanation of why Terramir Knights are after us. No big deal.
No, totally. I mean, when the dragon orb thing happened, which we'll talk about probably a little bit later, I had a crisis as Rob. It's what do I do in this situation? I don't know what Razik would do. We'll probably talk about that later.
Yeah, you remain pretty loyal to your Empire RP wise and true to your character, I believe. So there's that.
Speaking of some events that happened further down in the story, you guys kind of started out with a pretty, honestly, a very D&D feeling mission. You went after some bandits, the Scarlet Knuckles, as it were. And no, it is the Crimson Knuckles.
It is the Crimson Knuckles.
There is a repeated thing among this campaign of maroon figures of misnamed characters, spells, and factions, such as the Gym Dragon named Willa and the human named Jimma. They've even mistaken themselves.
What are the odds?
I know.
But
we were
so you go to let's just talk about that first mission. You go to fight some Crimson Knuckles and rescue some people. How did you get there? How did you find yourself in that situation doing that task?
I think it's just the good old overhearing the quest, right, in the local inn/tavern, and we collectively decided, or most of us collectively decided, that we needed to get some coin to.
I think we were staying in the worst. I'm sorry, Mike.
No, it's all right. It was just, for me, I just know it was it was a prompt, your classic D&D sort of mission. We need coin, and we felt like it was our duty to help these people, especially Salvador being an elf. Oh no, was that the Crimson Knuckles were part of the elf? That was a completely different story, right?
Separate.
Separate.
Yeah, it kind of gets mumbled.
But adjacent, right? Yeah.
Mumbled together.
But regardless, we wanted to do the right thing, I feel, and we're adventurers. So.
Yeah, I remember it being about half that and about half transactional. They were paying pretty well.
And we didn't have a podcast in the beginning. We started.
Yeah, and I know Anton was more into. Anton definitely was interested more into the gold aspect, the transactional period, because you guys needed gold to get resources to get out of there, right? Everyone was in agreement to leave. What's that?
Oh, I said under the table gold, no less, because they didn't want to be paid or
Right.
tracked in an official capacity.
Right.
They can't use their credit
Right.
cards.
Exactly.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, that was one of those. The law enforcement wanted to do something about the Crimson Knuckles, but their hands were sort of tied. Is that correct? They were an overwhelming presence in the area that they couldn't really devote a lot of resources to fixing.
Who couldn't?
The local law enforcement. I might be getting some things crossed there. Because of how many things
it was a year ago.
Had a deal, yeah.
No, for sure. I think a lot of it, they didn't have the resources. It's a small town. Well, not too small. It's actually a pretty big hub for trading and whatnot, but for the area, it's still kind of small, and just didn't have the resources. Plus, you kind of found out later that some of the wealthy, powerful individuals that had an influence in the town didn't really want it solved either.
Right. And that digs into more things, right?
That digs in some of the elves missing aspect, which was a separate sort of plot line, but they were going on at the same time, where all these elves were being kidnapped, and looks like they were being experimented on. Their blood was being taken from these bodies. You did rescue the one elf child who was weak
Kinda.
and yeah, kinda.
No, kinda.
He didn't die. So.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah. Mission accomplished then, right?
Yeah, our heroes actually didn't know that till just now, or when Wes confirmed it.
Oh, he didn't die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was going on, and it looks like Lady.
Gilkis.
What? I remember her name? No, not
Gilkis? No,
not
that was
Lady Gilkis. It was the
that was
leader,
right.
but
The one doing experiments.
Stonewall?
Say that again? I think Hannah got it.
hold
Stonewall?
on.
Stonewall.
Malkin Stonewall. Yes,
Right.
Malkin Stonewall.
Yeah, Hannah's
That
notes.
was,
Good job.
Yeah.
Inspiration dice for
Malkin
Hannah.
And her
Stonewall.
cat.
Yeah.
And her basement cat.
That's another thing you all didn't really investigate too much into. I think you're all just trying to get out of there. You got paid, you can leave. But there's more going. There was more going on there. There's still more going on there. Maybe it'll come back in another way. But why was she taking blood? Why was she taking elf blood? Why was she experimenting on elves? You never really got that answer.
Well, it was at that time when wasn't it Lady Gilkis who we talked to about that whole situation, right? We went to, that's correct, right? We went to go collect the bounty, and then that's when we got swooped up by or confronted rather with the Demarian Knight, who had questioned us, or basically the note, the idea of us killing our prison guards, and taking the note that had Anton's name on it. Like we took that, and they were questioning us whether or not we were the ones that broke out. Right. But they were so thankful that we took care of the elf situation. I think that's why we were just kind of like, hey, we got to get out of here because, hey, surprise! It ended up being Dana, Jenna's sister, who was just like, you gotta get out of here, right?
Like, leave. You guys gotta go.
You guys gotta go. Don't worry about the elf thing right now.
I think that was the most shocking moment to me in the entire campaign was Gemma's sister reveal. I remember being like, "Huh!"
Being a Demarian Knight.
Yeah.
I was like,
That was
my
pretty
jaw was on the floor. I was like, whoa.
I thought that was interesting, given how much of a prejudice Anton has against Demarian Knights, but
He's one of the good ones, as they say.
He's one of the good ones. But I mean, like Gemma pointed out, at one point you, Anton, had to have been trying to fight for the right side, and due to the way that the Empire puts on one image and the things that you and I have actually seen, and it's two different things, and we know what the actual reality of it is. So
yeah,
there's a lot of depth there.
Yeah, it's conflicting because you understand how she got there. She went down the Demarian rabbit hole, but at the same
It's the
time,
chemtrails.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually kind of something that we haven't explored either. Not to get into it too much, but given her position as a Demarian Knight, and knowing that Gemma is a magic user, if she was as devoted to her job as she seemed, then why, just forgetting the fact that she was her sister, why didn't she turn her in? Why did she allow her to go outside of that? So there are certain things about that we haven't touched upon, and that maybe even Gemma doesn't even know too. So
this is something that I don't think is necessarily like a spoiler going too much, and this is just my perspective. I think you have your own perspective too, Mike, but I kind of look at her as at least how I was portraying her in the beginning, is someone that is aware of the corruption and is aware of the bad things that the Empire is doing, but is sort of trying to fix the system within her own position as a knight the best that she can.
I think that's
so that's kind of how I view it.
No, that's pretty accurate as far as like what her motivation and her drive is. I mean, of course, being as high of a knight, much like Anton, lowborn, but drove herself to be in a position, at least the highest position that she could get to, trying to do the right thing, the things that she believed that the Empire stood for, with maybe a few other things that we haven't talked about, but well, maybe we'll find out later.
You mentioned a moment ago that even things Gemma may not know. How much would you say you think Mike, the character, knows about Gemma's backstory that she is not aware of, or the story surrounding her, perhaps?
She doesn't know a lot. She grew up a farm girl. Her parents died. As far as she knows, her parents died when she was really young, and then her grandmother died, and then her sister left the farm. And she's just been living life as an innocent farm girl, going through the daily motions until the shit hit the fan, essentially.
Oh, that sounds so sad.
Yeah, I wanted to make. And I'm sorry we keep talking about Gemma here, but
no, we want you to talk about Gemma.
Part of the thing is that when Wes and I had our discussions about Terramir, he had told me that magic was an outlawed thing, and in my opinion, like something as established as fantasy, or even especially as like D&D, when you have something like magic that's established in the sort of like the way that the world works, and it's just there. How do we make magic sort of I had a good word for this, essentially, where we make it evil enough and bad enough for people to want to be afraid of it and want to fear it. And I wanted it to be like Gemma to be something that was totally, this is out of her hands. This is something that she wasn't out to fight people. She wasn't out to do something illegal. It's just something that was dropped in her lap that made her essentially a villain, an enemy of the state, and just in that dramatic sense, just thrust into this world that she was not familiar with, and just danger around. I feel like there's a lot of more things I want to say about this, but I can't articulate it right now.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
No, I think let's talk. I mean, this is a good way to bring up sort of one of the main concepts we were liking about this world when we first set out to make this show was we like this aspect of the world Terramir, where this one particular area magic was outlawed, and we found like kind of an attachment to that. Initially it was me, Mike, and Rob who were kind of starting this thing out before we launched it, and we were thinking like, yeah, magic being outlawed, that's a very interesting place to start a story, right? Especially and you were thinking right away, Mike, that you might play a magic user. How hard and crazy and interesting would that be to play a magic user in that setting? So I don't really know where I was going with it, but I think I just wanted to bring up that.
You were gonna say that it's like really flipping the D&D conventions on its head, because like magic users are so like consistently powerful, and it would be interesting to like not kneecap, but like put that social pressure on the concept of magic being something that like you can't just bust out in public. You can't just be like, okay, minor illusion. Now there's an image of a person in front of this other person that's going to distract them. Now it's like, if you do that, you're going to have like the Skyrim guards being like, stop criminal scum, and like chasing you through the streets. I think that's what you were
violated the law.
I did want to challenge myself in that respect, but also mechanically.
I tried.
No. I mean, I feel like that's how it sort of was too. And like as a character, I wanted to challenge myself a little bit, not be able to use the full extent of my magic, because first of all, she didn't know how to use it or what it was all about. Grew up her whole life thinking that it was supposed to be evil, so she had to be afraid of it herself.
Right.
Too. And in like something like a wizard wouldn't work in that respect, because there wouldn't be a lot of resources to learn from. She couldn't be studying ancient illegal texts that were just sitting around at the library whatever, or even a master that she could look up to. This had to be like, I felt like a sorcerer was the right decision for it to just be like, this is a natural thing, and she has no control over it, and she just had to learn to grow with it. I think it was a challenging decision to not have magic and then to play a magic user.
To be like a marginalized majority, persecuted minority.
Mm-hmm. And I think that really helped with your story too, Anton, because I mean, your character saw that it wasn't just magic users that were evil. These were actually people. There were people who didn't deserve to be persecuted. They were murdered outright just being associated with magic. And I think that was a very interesting aspect of Anton, to having to go against his whole squad. And didn't you kill the whole squad, Anton? Or isn't that what they're after you for?
He's killed a lot of people.
He's killed a lot of people. Right?
Yeah.
In that conversation, though, we touched on something that I want to dive a little bit deeper into, and that is the invention of this podcast. You talked about kind of like discussing, Mike, you talked about kind of discussing with Wes the world and as it was coming up and things going into it, such as that. So how did this podcast and world itself come around? And Wes, let's kick off with you on that one, because I know you've got deep and long ties to this world.
Absolutely, yeah, and we've talked a little bit about this on offline, but I guess we never have online. So Terramir is my homebrew world that I created back in high school when I was playing heavily into Dungeons and Dragons with my friends at that time, and it evolved from several different worlds and kind of evolved over time. But long story short, I kind of went to Mike and Rob and said, we should do a show. We should do a D&D show. I'd really like to do that. I have this world built. We could use this. And they were kind of on board. We talked about it. We talked about it for about a year before we actually made any actual moves. And during that time, I spent a lot of time revamping the world, rewriting it, building it, making it so it wasn't a high schooler brain world. It was a more adult, evolved version of it. So I did change some things, but a lot of the main
you took out like the race of big-breasted women.
The beach episode.
Well, that never existed, but yeah. So things evolved, and I think in a very much better direction. And so, that's where it came about. And I started creating the world. And then we talked about, I presented to them like, oh, these are different areas of the world. What seems like a good place to start? And we all kind of landed on the Empire. It seemed the most interesting place to start, I think. But maybe Rob or Mike want to talk about their influence getting into this.
Oh, I think you covered it.
Well, you said start with me, so
yeah, no, I mean, you had told us about your world, and I mean, Rob's known you for a lot longer than I have, so this is like the first I had heard of it, and there were a lot of aspects of it that I felt that were interesting, and I thought it was a good idea to start with something more original, try to make something of our own ideas, and try to be our own thing. So I was really excited to jump into exploring the different things that you had set in place, and maybe even making it grow ourselves through the characters that we have. I think that's probably one of the better ways to fill in all the details, is poke at it from different aspects of our different characters. Because I mean, our characters are from vastly different origins. So yeah, I think that it gives us the opportunity to see it from different perspectives.
Yeah, I love the that you've built so much on, like, that's part of me, that's why I like this world. Feels so lived in, Wes. I think because like you have been thinking about it for such a long time, and I feel that you've done a really good job of like incorporating like the stuff that came before. Like you have a lot of like a deep lore, which as a Dark Souls fan, like I'm all about like obscure connections and like reading item descriptions and like basing entire like essays and like theses around that. But I think that like your adventures in like the original what were they called, the champions, your original
the destined heroes.
yeah, that your destined
Destined
heroes, your destined heroes of destiny. They, the world has been shaped by the events that came before, and it feels like, we are shaping the events now in the world, and like, and if there's like a time skip or something where, like we jump forward in Terramir, it's whatever, in like 300 episodes.
Campaign 2.
Yeah, campaign like 2 or 3 or whatever.
Next campaign.
And we're playing like the cyberpunk RPG or whatever. It'll feel really lived in. It feels like we are like building concretely on like the bones of like what's come before us. So that's what I really like. There's like when you walk around and you like see the scars on the world from like what came before and what happened. Like I really enjoy that. So good
Thanks,
job,
Rob. That's great. I think that's what comes from having a world with so much history, right? Is it kind of naturally is laid in there of, and I kept that canon, right? To have some of that lived in feel too.
It helps.
Those
Like, we're not
adventures
just the only
we're
people
still
that
canon.
exist in this world. Like,
Yeah, there's other
in fact,
heroes.
We're a
there's other,
tiny part of it, and we're super vulnerable.
There's like
the thing that I
80% of the
about it.
content you haven't explored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We feel
Cool.
very small, and I like that. I like feeling very small because it's like we feel vulnerable, And it's
Yeah.
like I think that like goes into the combat that we do and like the role playing that we do. It's like we are like against this like omniscient, oppressive like thing in the Empire,
That's called a
right?
DM.
What's really cool though is
I
that
know, yeah.
West didn't write the Empire explicitly when he was defining the world. They weren't the explicit enemy. He just said that magic was outlawed, and there was actually reasons behind it. So it's not like they're set out to be evil. They're not this like set of zombies controlled by some necromancer somewhere. Like they have their own moral structure, and it just conflicts with us in the party. So it makes them a complicated enemy, and there's like moral ambiguity, and that really plays when Gemma's sister shows up. It really highlights that.
Well, it's
I mean,
like
it makes
it's
a lot
like
of sense.
Zach's
You said that.
psychologist character. It's like if someone puts a red button in front of you and tells you you can do anything that you want in this world, but you can't push that red button. Like you're gonna push that red button.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, Justin, because that's another sort of theme that I wanted to at least portray. I'm glad it's coming through. Is the moral ambiguity and the decisions of doing that with a party in the D&D game. I've always found that really interesting. I always like when players are presented with choices and it's not the good side isn't always clear. And the evil side's not always clear. And I think the Empire has struggled with that, and I think you all are struggling with that too. So I'm very happy that seems to have worked out, where it's not clear line of this is good, this is evil. And that's not real life, right? That's not how real life is either. So I'm glad that has played out.
Jane and Avario, like Jane really has just been fooled by Avario, who is evil, but Jane isn't per se evil. So you've got this pair of powerful foes who have sort of different perspectives, and it makes it tough.
I think it's like that thing where it's not just one big evil machine, and there are just many links in the chain that can be corrupted. And that
They're not orcs.
What was that?
I said they're not orcs.
They're not orcs. Oh, that's...
Lord of the Rings or specifically.
Up and down.
Let's be specific before we offend people, okay?
But Wes a moment ago touched on comparing it to real life. But speaking of real life, I think all of us here could probably use a short rest. So we're going to take a very short break, and we'll be back in a moment. And we're going to try and move further in the story and kind of discuss events as they happen. So see you when we get
Sounds
back.
good.
Right.
Stick around.
That's a smooth transition.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey.
So now that we're back, I want to kind of change the topic of discussion and move forward a little bit in the story. And speaking of change, it is a very relevant to this point. Anton may have, at some point in time, constructed. That's not the right word.
Contracted.
Contracted. Thank you. Contracted a certain disease. Anton, you want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, lycanthropy. That was kind of a fun arc because, even when he wasn't full bore, his personality was changing for the worse. He was getting a lot more prone to rage, and at one point, he even slaughtered an unarmed innocent prisoner. So, no one really knew what was going on. Wow.
And you didn't know what was going on either,
I didn't know
actually.
either.
But I was feeding you private messages, and I was telling you like you're starting to feel certain ways, like angry. You can't explain it, and you were playing off that. pretty well.
Wow,
Changes.
I didn't even catch that.
That's crazy.
I'm just like,
You guys
man,
just
he
thought I was,
really wants to kill that dude.
You really want to rut and like search for rare types of truffles.
No, but that was great. You were really after blood, and I didn't even put the two things together. That you were just being
he was grumpy,
a soldier.
grumpy Anton.
Yeah. Oh, that was grumpy.
Yeah. When he gets grumpy, he runs unarmed people through.
Now, I'm no expert on
you
Latin, but I don't think lycanthropy is necessarily the appropriate word for what you were, Justin.
Yeah, doesn't that indicate a wolf?
I
From
think
its
it indicates
root.
a wolf.
Yeah. Well, someone who
Well,
knows
it's
Latin can
in
figure out
D&D
what-
lore. In D&D lore, at
Porcanthropy.
least, it's lycanthropy is a condition. It's a curse that you can get in the game, and it covers a wide array of different animals that you can.
Yeah, that was Zach's.
Were wolf,
Zach's-
were bear, were boar.
Yeah.
We're a dragon.
He's just actuallying. He's just pushing up his glasses and saying, actually.
I mean, I'm glad somebody
So
can
it
appreciate
was-
my actually.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. But that moment of how you actually got afflicted with the curse, Anton, was when you fought the wereboar in the Stonewall Manor, in the first town. Down there, you fought a wereboar who seemed to be torturing a lot of the elves that were down there. Is going back slightly, but you fought a wereboar, and the wereboar actually hit you with one of its tusks, and I had you roll a con save,
I remember that.
which you failed. I left it there, and
Yeah.
no one said anything.
Yeah, you
But at
just
that
went
moment-
on.
Yeah. Like, is that
At that
for,
moment, you had
Oh man.
you had become cursed, and I wanted that to slowly kind of unveil itself. So I was messaging you like how you were feeling and things, and then the full moon happened when you were at the Divine Flavors restaurant, and that was it. It had to come out full force. That's when you transformed.
Yeah, how embarrassing.
Yeah.
How much earlier than that was Anton aware of what he had? Or was that the reveal moment for Anton as well?
Yeah, that was the reveal moment. I mean, all the dreams and everything he was having, he probably didn't even know what lycanthropy was or what a warbear was, but he was having dreams of running around and hunting. If he had known about that condition, he probably would have put two and two together, but no clue. Until
He
There are a
was
lot of
having
things
the
happening.
dreams and the visions of, and in canon, and this is something we haven't ever talked about, but some of those dreams you're having of you at night running around through the forest and hunting prey and eating them, that was Anton had turned into an actual boar and was running around at night, eating snakes and eating random animals through the forest, and then coming back and passing out and waking up in the morning not knowing anything that happened.
Yeah, those people
I
that
guess
we
both
left
a good
on
and
guard.
bad thing that our party are such heavy sleepers.
Yeah, well, whoever
Yeah.
was taking watch sucks.
No one took watch.
No one took
No
watch
one was
on
taking
any of those
watch.
nights. Jesus Christ.
No one was
we
taking
gotta
watch.
we gotta step that up.
I feel like Nick would be the paranoid one that says like somebody needs to take watch, but then he's the one afflicted and doing the stuff. So
True.
Wish I would have known. Somebody could have mentioned something about my truffle breath.
why does your breath smell like snakes and a raw animal? I don't...
How do I know what snakes are on? Smell like?
He normally smells like that. It's fine.
You've never had snake? Tastes just like chicken. Ask Sawmill.
Yeah.
Well, it's the eel of the land.
The eel of the
The eel of the land.
Great.
Can we just say really quick, that's the best joke we've ever had on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike, for the tuna of the land.
Can't take
It's
credit
the
for that.
chicken.
That's all, but it was fitting. You know, I mean, it seemed weird to me that Savamil, like, I don't know, like Savamil's a sea creature, but he eats, like, I guess fish and stuff like that. Wouldn't that be like Ariel eating flounder or something like that?
That's not canon. That's not
No,
canon.
that's not canon. That's not canon. So, yeah. But
I mean, it's like in Pokemon how like they don't eat. They're all vegetarian in Pokemon.
interesting.
Oh, no,
yeah,
they don't
So
wanna-
the same thing with the sea elves, maybe.
Nobody talks about
They don't want to. They don't want to address the problem, the issues there.
Well, I'm glad he's on his
Yeah.
meat journey. Meat journey is going to be a thing, I think, throughout the whole campaign, or for as long as Savamil's with us, right? Still got to get him to
Yeah.
try that bacon wrapped chicken.
Brings up a whole other things. Yeah.
I mean, actually, that's a
It's
really
tough.
interesting point. If we want to touch on that real quick, Sawmill is kind of meant to be a transient character that has become more of a staple facet in this story.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something we can touch on really quick. We didn't really address earlier, but yeah, Savamil was never meant to be a main character. I threw him in there in the prison wagon to be sort of a means to help smooth the transition and what's going on a little bit. Maybe a little bit of excuse to like inject my voice a little bit to maybe cue you in for things that might be needed. And also is a healer because you don't have a healer. I didn't want to kill your characters in the very beginning in case anything crazy happened. So
Like running out of
a
giant.
little bit of meta, a little bit of meta control there. But no, so Savamil has tried several times to leave, and you just want to follow him. So that's our campaign.
He's
I
basically
guess.
a prisoner at this
Nope.
point.
Savi baby, you're not
A
going
little bit of
anywhere.
a
Yeah.
sea elf ex machina.
Yeah.
It's definitely because you have such a great personality and not because you're a healer.
But also the healing, because you guys have almost died a few times.
Is
This is what happens when
the
nobody
player
goes
saying this, or
cleric.
this is the character saying this?
Oh yeah,
a
no,
little bit
that's,
of
the character saying that. But I can't imagine what we would do without Savamil. It just wouldn't be the same campaign at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, it would have ended at like episode 7. Like you guys would just be dead.
All right. Spend all our money on healing potions.
You
Is
figure
that
it out.
so
You'd be
you just
having
buy
a lot of
horse
healing
merch?
potions.
Could just
Yeah, but
hire healers through every town that we cross.
Who's gonna say that's so
Mercenary
great?
healers.
Who's
Does
gonna
that
could,
throw
yeah.
you for a loop, Wes? When Dana told us to go to, where was it, Procyon? And we were like, oh no, we're just gonna
Procyon.
follow Softmill.
Damn, Hannah, your notes.
Yeah.
man.
I'm looking at my notes. I'm like, got all the words in there, got all the keywords.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So that, yeah. Again, like I didn't set out with any idea of where this was going to go, and so it's all been a surprise for me along the way, as much as you all. And so I did want to at least present you with paths because I don't want to railroad you. So you can Procyon and Savamil's going that way. You guys are like, we're gonna follow Savamel. Screw
What do
that
you think is
story.
the most?
guy.
What do you think is the most interesting aspect of Savamil, Wes, as both creator
Oh,
and
man.
character?
Can I answer the question from my perspective?
Please.
You're gonna say his abs.
accent.
Don't say his abs.
No, the
accent.
accent. The abs. The
accent.
sexiness is second.
I think we just recently found out what Wes based the accent from.
Yeah. So I partially made it up on the spot, partially
Oh wow!
went into it. But
No one would suspect.
yeah. But I kind of in the back of my brain was basing it off of Tommy Wiseau in The Room, a little bit. With a little bit of a different like flair, I guess. I'm more like innocent and more just like exotic, I guess. And I kind of just fell into it, and it stuck. But I gotta say now I've tried to get rid of Savamel. Now I don't want to get rid of him. Now he's part of the party. You all have made him part of the party. I love him a lot now. So
I mean, you've
We're
also
gonna-
paid for art of him, so
Yeah.
at this point, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're gonna run with the Tommy Wiseau thing through the campaign too. You know?
We got Wes that for his birthday.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so funny.
You
Jen.
did. Everyone
we-
paid for the art for Savamel for my birthday, which was very generous. Like a year ago. I don't know. A while back.
You don't know when your birthday
Um,
was. Yeah.
Uh,
I just
give
want to
our
call
art
one of the
back.
comments from Twitch chat real quick. With the mod skips. Oh hi, Gemma.
Oh, hi. I did not.
Oh,
I did not
hi,
get that.
Gemma. Oh,
Yeah.
hi. I did not.
Have a guiding bolt. I mean, healing bolt.
I
It's so
did not
crazy.
hear him.
Savamil.
If I have to back him up,
Um,
yeah, I'll play back.
So before we get too deep into this tangent, even though we already have somewhat, I do want to come back to where we started with, which is Anton's lycanthropy. So this was like a big revelation point in the story where it was like he transformed and the party had to deal with it. But he wasn't the only one in the party with a second form, was he?
That's
That
right.
was a big reveal.
Willow wings.
Yeah.
Actually, I had tried a couple of times talking to Anton, trying to be like, actually, it's not that bad. If you want to stay as this, it's really not as bad as you think. But Anton was very against
Well,
it.
I'll tell you
She's like,
this.
"No."
Part of that, I felt a lot of pull towards like, if you'd like to stick with this. But I honestly, the main driver for why I didn't want to is because I didn't want another mechanic in the mix to have to deal with.
That's fair. I think that's fair. I mean,
Yeah,
that's smart.
yeah.
Solid point, really is.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I was like, I just need to figure out the fighter first, and then I'll figure out transforming.
You're doing great.
With
too.
new
Totally fair.
abilities, new roles.
Mhm.
I think that
I
you
will say
played
from-
it great too, Hannah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say that I think that Hannah trying to seed those little clues in about herself was played really well RP wise, and you weren't overtly like, hey, you should be embrace your being a boar. You're just like, well, this is your decision, and I don't know. I thought you played it really well.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I tried to be pretty subtle with it because her whole story is that like she's not really supposed to tell anyone. It's kind of, I think I mentioned it in the actual episode, but it's like a family. It's like a family thing, right? It's a family secret. And so she's not ashamed of it. She knows she's not supposed to tell anyone, but she also knows that like, hey, it's not actually that bad of a thing once you like get control of it. So that's why, eventually she had to tell everyone about it because we got to that point. And that was actually kind of helpful because I couldn't find a great point to insert it because it didn't make sense for her character to just come out and like tell everybody. And she has control of her ability to change to the wyvern. So there was no point in the timeline where it made sense for her to change into it.
Showed great restraint, I think, in character,
Yeah.
playing it just like it. It's not anything it's like not like a go-to thing for Willa. And you've only busted it out. I think you did in this most recent episode against the Bone Devil.
Devil.
Right. Okay.
Bone Devil.
I messed that up last time.
Yeah, the
it
Ice
was
Devil.
like dire times where you're just like, I gotta bust this out so that I can, do what I can do. I think that was really good.
Wow, that makes me want to rewatch those episodes to see Gemma's like stuff, because like I did not pick up on your draganthropy at all.
Gigantic, really nice.
So I would love
she
to go
turns
back
into a
through
drag
and be
queen
like,
sometimes.
oh wow, like Hannah's playing her hands close to her chest.
So the subtleness worked.
Yeah,
it was
no,
a-
it totally did.
Very interesting too during healing Anton, the way you played that as well. I thought that was a really good way to segue into you having to wrestle with that. And if Anton was never turned into a wearboard, then would we have ever encountered that issue?
That's true.
Would have come
It
up
might-
very
yeah.
differently.
Yeah. What if
Would have
Willa
been
got
different.
what if Willa got bit by the wearboard? Then what?
Oh,
Big drag.
yeah,
Wyvern
exactly.
boar.
That would have been weird.
Wyvern boar?
Well, technically, she's already afflicted, so it would have no effect on Willa.
All right.
But,
Something
Go ahead.
Rob touched on there for a moment. He was talking about how he needs to go back and rewatch those episodes to kind of see how Hannah played that out. Myself and Charlie, I think we had a clue as to what was happening there because we had Willa's dragon art, her dragon form art and stat cards for running stuff in the back end of things. So we were aware that she was going to change or do something at some point. So
Oh,
we got that, I think,
there are three of us
or
who
4
are aware of
episodes.
this.
you sneaky devils.
There are three of us who are aware this whole time.
Yeah,
Well, I
3 or
guess
4
technically
episodes, I think, before it
of
came
us are aware.
around.
Yeah.
But knowing ahead of time that was coming, and watching Willa try and convince Anton of like, hey, it's not so bad. You might be able to learn to control it. She played it really subtly and really well. Like in there, it was excellently done.
Awesome.
I think it's an
Um,
interesting transformation too, because she's so congenial this whole campaign, and then she turns into this almost I wouldn't say like scary, but like you're a wyvern.
It was pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's a monster.
Like
Yeah.
is sort of
It was awesome.
the
And
polymorph
it
thing.
was-
That's crazy.
And it's like Mike said, it's like you were so patient about it. Like I
sat on
don't
it for
know that
10,
I
12
could be that
episodes?
patient. I feel like how many? What were we like 8 months in when you first transformed? Like
Yeah, it was
You were
definitely
pretty far
definitely
along.
a while. I think if that event hadn't happened, I would have waited until maybe Wes, if you had like thrown something in where she had to change.
Yeah.
Just an
Yeah,
indefinite.
because there wasn't really a point where she needed to. And the fact that she even spilled the beans to Gemma so easily, I think that kind of shows how close they had gotten. Because as soon as they had both
Yeah.
gotten outside and they were like in the alleyway, like Willa just kind of let everything out. She like told you everything.
Touching on that, I think
That was a
kind
great
of
moment.
where-
That was a great moment.
I think that's kind of where Gemma and Willa's like sisterhood style bonding really kicked off. Was when she had left the chamber where Anton was getting his lycanthropy dealt with, and she was feeling the magical effects of those forces, and she had to leave. And I think Willa went to check on her. Gemma went to check on
Willa
her.
left as soon as she it was a struggle because she wanted to make sure Anton was okay, but as soon as we knew that he was all right, she went to go check on Willa because I think that's been great, and I've been enjoying playing that aspect between their bond because Gemma missed her older sister, they have a lot in common, and I think being away from home, it just kind of plays well together.
A couple of farm girls too. Like that's
Yeah.
almost an
Yeah.
instant bond.
What are the odds? Both
Yeah.
farm girls, Gemma,
What are the
Willa.
I don't think we even talked about that prior to starting.
No,
we just ended up
I didn't.
having the same farm girl origin story.
Yeah, I didn't know anything till day one, so
It's great. No, but I've actually really enjoyed playing that aspect of it, just because Gemma, of course, has these. I wouldn't say necessarily abandonment issues, but she is missing that part of her life, and Willa kind of brings that back to her. So, yeah.
it worked out.
Excellent.
Do we want to touch on the kind of behind the scenes at all, like how this is produced and how we get it up technically, the art that
No.
Hannah did?
It's like no.
Moving on.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah,
I feel like we touch on it real quickly. Yeah.
We can let the gremlins out of their little sewer for a second.
I
We can lift the grate off the Ninja
mean,
Turtle
yeah, this is
style
the first
sewer
time I've been
system.
let out of my dungeon in almost a year now.
He's still chained to the desk, though. He's still.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but it's.
Yeah, it's well, it's around my ankle.
We give him a bucket of raw fish heads every month, and he's good.
That's how
You
we
don't
do
want
it.
to smell the raw fish head breath. It's worse than snake breath. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Let's touch on the art for a moment. Both our character portraits and our art we use for every stream, the borders and such.
Yeah, let's give the plug
Yeah.
to the character artist.
Yeah,
Elena
the
Faye.
character artist, Alana Faye Art. You can find her mostly on, the best way to reach her is on Etsy. ELENAFE Art. Alana Faye Art. She, we randomly found her for a previous campaign that we did. Another homebrew Wildbound game that we did. That was a long-term campaign. And we wanted some character art. We found this artist, and she was great. And when we started making this show, we were like, we should hire her again, or ask her to. We can commission her again to make this art. And she delivered again, and she's awesome, very friendly. She's located in Italy, I believe. Great prices, and you get amazing art. So she created the characters with us, and so definitely want to give a shout out to her. We were able to take that art, and then Hannah is our UI UX, our designer for everything else. So she makes the frames, she makes the a lot of our branding art. That comes from Hannah.
Yeah, that was a lot
Yeah,
of
she
fun. to make.
moonlights as a UI UX designer.
Yeah, it's my second show. This is my main. This is my main.
It's her main.
Yeah, I made them in Procreate. It was a lot of fun to make. I know we wanted to go for like a specific feel for what we're doing, and I think we could kind of just build off of that. This one here is just taking what we already had and adding some extra elements. So fun.
Yeah,
And on the technical side of
we're pretty
things,
happy with that.
myself and Charlie are the ones that kind of run that bit. I think it was Mike that initially reached out to me and asked me one day. I've had some experience with streaming, and I kind of enjoy the technical setup behind it. I'm not necessarily a streamer or a good at it, but the technical aspect I do know pretty well, and it's a lot of fun for me. So he reached out to me about doing that, and I wasn't able to do it entirely alone. So we also brought on Charlie, who you have not heard from. You've heard of him.
Never heard of him.
Also known as Skips Jensenberg in chat. But yeah, we're here behind the scenes in every episode, oftentimes referred to as, I think correct me if I'm wrong,
Audio
Tech
gremlins.
Goblins? Tech Gremlins? Rob, I think it was you're the one that
Audio
named it.
gremlins?
Audio.
Audio
I mean, you
gremlins.
guys do so much
Yeah.
more
Give
than
it the-
audio.
You know, you're much more than audio, but yeah.
I mean, sure, but it's a fun nomenclature.
Yeah.
You guys do a great
But-
job too, like keeping us on track. You know, in
We
our
do
ears and stuff.
standard.
Sure.
Yeah, you guys are just okay.
We get it
Mediocre.
working.
Charlie's constantly
Oh,
like
I know.
saying things that only we can hear on the stream.
Yeah, he's
and making us
complaining so
laugh
much
and-
right now.
They say stuff in our ears all the time while we're playing. That's why we might burst out in laughter randomly.
Sounds like
His,
talking to something or say something out loud, responding to something. that
The
you guys
God mic,
hear.
as it were.
Probably what it is.
Well, it's usually like Rob, you're like only in like the bottom 10% of the camera right now. Please adjust yourself. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. I guess
Hey,
I
Rob,
am.
you're leaning your face off the left side of the camera. Can you kind of recenter real quick?
Yeah.
So they you keep us in check. You keep the engine running and oiled.
We could probably talk on that for a while, but I want to get back to the story of Tales of Terramir.
You're so humble.
I'm glad we got,
no,
I will say,
it's really
I'm glad
awkward.
we got to touch on that. I'm glad we got to touch on that at least a little bit, so people can know about you, Zach, and Charlie. Anyway,
Yeah, if you ever see Z for Z in chat, that's also me, Zach.
Can I ask?
Charlie is
Can I ask something?
I didn't touch on that either. Go ahead.
Going back to the story, I wanted to ask about something that actually occurred to me recently. Is that I know that Willa has this sort of different kind of magic, also, but it is still considered magic, not divine, which is accepted by the Empire. I was wondering if it's just that secrecy that your family kept of mechanically the blood magic. Was that like just unknown through the Empire? Because we haven't really actually gotten to that yet, and we haven't talked about how the Empire. I mean, obviously, we would probably know what the Empire thinks of it, but do you have any sort of insight about that? Is it just you guys are keeping to yourselves this whole generational family secret, as it were?
Yeah. Pretty much, it's a family secret. We know that if it gets shared outside, it's gonna be a problem, like with the authorities. That's pretty much it. We just don't share it around. We keep it internally, but we use it for the farm and stuff. So that's why we keep sharing it with like the next generations of our family.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel like that's something that we should probably touch upon when we get back into game. I feel like we should ask each other a lot more questions when we get back into game. Actually,
there's a lot of more talking that should be happening, probably between you all. Yeah, but then again, we look back and it's like it's only been a month in the game, a year in the real world, a month in the game.
It makes sense that
So
we're not
crazy.
just like, so tell me about your relationship with your dad.
It was going to be viral when I come back into the game as the psychiatrist.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I like was really that was hard in the beginning. I feel is like, you know, playing, like making the party work together, but still having like that realistic like mistrust, you know, while also knowing that like it's a production and we gotta like keep the show moving and all that good stuff. Like balancing those two things, like that's hard.
I definitely felt like that was a challenge. There were a lot of things that, you know, you have to take the hooks for the adventures and the quests and stuff. But, you know, for my character in particular, it was just like, I need to get out of here. I don't know why we want to stick around, you know, or I don't necessarily trust all of you.
And Wes spent 4 hours making that side quest, and he's like, okay, fine.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
I'll low-key try to divert ourselves away from all of his prep work.
No, we want to find out about Savamil's grandparents. We're gonna ignore this.
God damn it.
Well, I've had to flesh all that out because you refused to leave him alone. So.
Now let's ditch him since he wrote all that stuff. So we're in Oaktown,
like I
right?
said,
yeah,
like I said a moment ago, I'd like to get back to kind of focusing on the story in our conversation here. So we have a bunch of mysterious aspects to our story happening, a lot of unknowns and a lot of unexplored things. Something we did run into, though, is Razik running into a contact of his at the time, the man in the yellow cloak. Do we want to kind of explore that and talk about that a bit more?
Pain. Psychic pain. Yeah, that was a rough one. Was that in Oaktown?
Yeah,
I believe it was.
There was a lot that went on in Oaktown. We went to the was it the school? We went to the school and found those
library.
Yeah, the library. We found those like those banned books in the library, and then we went to, I think it was the Nicer Bar. We went to the Nicer Bar, and we met a Pangeanan.
Drunken deer.
Yeah, the drunken deer. Yeah, and you know, he flagged me down psychically, and my blood kind of like went cold there for a second, because this is the first time like my you know, my loyalties have been sort of like tested with the party. You know, my like I wouldn't even call like Razik's like feelings for his country patriotism. It's more just like faith. You know, it's like blind faith, because like he knows that he doesn't have the information really to make an informed judgment about like the things that he is doing.
I mean, when you have no memories and no past, it's hard for you to make your own decisions.
Yeah, and I have just enough to like remember the good things that I like, but you know, I also understand the purpose of it, and like I think like in my imagination of like Pangea is a very like collectivist society by the very nature of the fact that like everybody is kind of like psychically connected to each other for the most part. And so like there's this kind of like implicit trust that you have like to be part of that community. And you know, when the man in the yellow cloak showed up and he gave us that mission to well, how would you describe it, Wes? So I don't get it wrong.
Well, first of all, let's go back a little bit. And you're almost to Oaktown, and you met that thief. Remember, there was a thief that was trying to steal from the caravan. And as you had sort of finished off the combat there with him, he seemed to be taken over psychically by a presence that gave you a mission to get this orb from underneath the spire in Oaktown, which was the town you were approaching. Your mission was to collect this orb. So fast forward, you were able to go down there, and we could talk more about that, but I think we don't want to divulge too much into that whole thing. But you met the Flame Skull, fought the Flame Skull. There's also that mimic, the Treasure Hoard mimic, which was fun.
Hey, Wes, sorry to interrupt. Can we get that Flame Skull laugh real quick, please?
Oh God. Oh, I don't remember. Let's see.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just had to bring that about. Sorry. Go ahead.
Very Wicked Witch of the West energy.
Yes, he was very much like. Oh, he was like. That's where the
Mike, you're muted, homie.
The Laughing Spire came from.
He's mad.
That's how it got its name, Laughing Spire. The Flame Skull that was cackling and laughing was this sort of mad wizard that had gone crazy and was cackling and laughing all the time. And kids would hear the cackling around, the echoing from the tower when they were exploring it. And that's where the legend came from.
I never put that together, actually.
Me neither.
Yeah. So that's why it's called the Laughing Spire, was because of the Flame Skull. But anyway, you found this. You found the stone, this orb that transformed into. Well, first of all, it was made of amethyst, and it also seemed to connect with Willa's necklace, amethyst necklace, which he has had since birth. Seemed to be a connection there, and it turned into something with dragon scales on it, and seemed to resonate as well with Gemma. But you were presented with this question: should you keep the orb and ignore what Rob's mission is, Razik's mission is of collecting this orb and bringing it to the Pangean people? So that was the dilemma, and I kind of left it all to you it was your choice to figure out where this goes. You ended up giving it back and giving it to the Pangean people. So that was the whole thing. But you did find that map. You had the map that showed out, seemed to be circled other places, possibly where maybe other ones are. So that's something that is, I think, probably will be explored down the road.
I think there was some part of the initial conflict is one of those, and this is one thing I really liked about this part of the story is that I know I can speak for Gemma and maybe even Willa too, how we were kind of hoping that this thing that you were getting, Razik, was going to be used to hurt other people, this magical object. and you being so uncertain about what it is, but just having faith in your mission to do something kind of conflicted also with what Gemma had already witnessed and had been through with the Empire. Having to believe this like greater force, this society, who taught her that magic was bad and everything. She followed them blindly, and then she ended up where she is now. And you also just having this sort of like blind faith conflicted with her most recent views about what would happen with that, with what would happen with her. So I thought that was an interesting conflict between our characters, not necessarily trusting what you're like, because your society is largely unknown. I think even in lore, like a lot of people don't know a lot about the society of Pangina. I know there's a trading going on and stuff like that, but
in my mind it's like fairly utopian, but like I also probably don't recall a lot of the gritty bits, a lot of the gross stuff.
Just,
or at least I wouldn't share that with the outsiders.
Yeah,
no, I totally agree. And also with Anton too, who that's something I was really worried about, is because he's like totally anti all of that blind faith stuff.
I actually that's when I got to play you, Anton. And that was one thing that I wanted to keep in mind too, because you, according to your backstory, you had, from what I knew about your backstory, it was sort of the similar thing where you saw what the Empire really was and what you put your faith into and where it led. And it was this thing where Razik is doing the sort of the same thing, but we don't know why, because nobody knows anything about it. Mm-hmm. So do we follow that blindly, or do we like follow what's in our gut about, like, are you going to hurt more people with it?
Yeah, Anton knows firsthand what happens when people just follow orders. An entire village gets thrown off the side of a cliff.
It's fine.
Yeah. But since you brought it up, I think that was also a great moment, at least from my perspective, of seeing you finally kind of dish out sort of what like Anton has gone through, like his backstory. The Anton monologue was a highlight for me, of just kind of unveiling everything and just being like, this is what happened, and this is why I'm here where I am now. I loved that personally.
Oh, fast forwarding to after the encounter at the Sleepy Woodsman.
After the Sleepy Woodsman, yeah.
Right.
So once you had moved past Oak Town, yeah, let's move to that, I guess. Moving to the Sleepy Woodsman.
Oh yeah, okay.
Or are we done with?
No, I didn't know if we wanted to elaborate more on Razik's relationship, because I feel that that's not going to be the last person that we're going to be in contact with. Again, we don't know anything about the Pangeans, how far their reach goes, and will we see any of them outside the Empire, or will they follow us in there? Who knows?
Right. Most likely not the last time you'll come across something like that.
Well, if you're saying that there are more of these orbs elsewhere, then I feel like that's probably part of the mission, or is that part of Razik's mission? He's just not telling us.
There's actually 6 more orbs scattered around the planet. Once you got them all, you can make a wish.
Yeah.
You summon a big Willa. Really good advice.
I do want to kind of move on to the Sleepy Woodsman events, but before we get too far from it, Mike, a moment ago you mentioned that you took over Anton's position for him one game. I just want to get that Anton voice that you did so well.
You mean this one? Better make sure you're fighting for the right side, or I'll cut you down myself.
It's basically spot on. Like it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I
wasn't looking and I thought it was Justin.
I'm the Lord of
I thought it was too.
That's how good it was. I just wanted to call that out because it was well done.
It was.
First you gargle with rocks. And
who did say that? Who did deliver that line?
I did. Yeah,
that was Mike.
Yeah.
Mike
that was definitely felt like that was Anton though. But like again, just projecting, thinking about where you were at, like how you're just like you cannot blindly trust just everything that you've been told, and you don't even know because you don't have your memories. But like, I know we've been fighting together, but just know that if you betray us, then I will stick you.
Yeah.
And
I mean, aside from maybe Wes and Anton himself, anyone at the table, you're going to know Anton's story,
Sure.
his vibe, and his kind of motivations the best. So you did very well with that.
Thanks. Yeah. And even leading up to this is interesting because Gemma actually doesn't know a lot about Anton's story, and we see that traveling more later on in the campaign that he finds out the stuff that happens after Anton's monologue, and it hasn't been touched upon too. But there's a moment where she has like this conflict where she's just like, can I really trust this guy? Because I mean, is he a murderer? Is he actually working for the Empire? Like, who do I believe? Did he really kill his whole squad? I don't know. But again, like, we haven't really touched on that.
I mean, to be fair, in the universe of D&D, who isn't a murderer? Am I right?
Yeah.
But neither here nor there.
You follow through.
At least one die.
Right. You follow through a couple times, not just all the damage.
But without getting too far off beat, I do kind of want to go back to the Sleepy Woodsman and the events therein if we want to talk about that some.
Yeah. I just watched that one.
Yeah, that's a big campaign moment. Yeah. Anton, do you want to touch on that a little bit? Like when the knights came in and you all were, I kind of liked, first of all, setting the scene. Like I liked having just like a fun sort of just like hanging out in the tavern and this place is crazy. Let's gamble and
steak
drink
challenge.
Yeah, before we get into too much of Anton's past, what did you guys order at the restaurant?
Just the salad. Bacon, anything with just whatever it was had bacon on it.
Yeah, and there was gambling too, right? I thought I was totally gonna just gamble the whole night. Me
no,
and
you and Razik won the table.
We played a game. We played a gambling game, and Razik won.
I've been having some hot luck in our games of chance.
Yeah.
God, yeah, that past game, you had like what, 3 nat 20s or something?
Yeah,
I've got
a double nat
quite a bit of
24
money.
rolls.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You also did talk about, you did say when you won the game, Razik, you said, drinks for everyone. You left before you paid the tab. Just saying.
I think a lot of people did.
Inspiration from a kind of famous president.
The bartender.
Yeah,
I believe that was
Yeah.
entirely intentional.
Very relevant. Yeah.
That'll be the new person who hunts us is the bartender.
Oh no!
Just
take your money.
Well, to be fair, I
Also,
left because we were
Willa-
being chased onto death. So
All of you are going to have bounties on your head just from
Bullshit.
unpaid bar tab.
Yeah.
We put our pictures
least
on
of
the
my
wall.
crimes.
Willa completed three of the stake challenges. Got her name on the wall 3 times.
Oh, I thought she only ate like 1 or 2 because we were interrupted from
She
the
got
fight. She didn't get
interrupted,
to.
Well,
didn't get
she purchased 3. She purchased 3.
Oh,
And she got her name at least once, though.
yeah, right.
Okay. I have written down here. Will eats 1 steak, 2 to go. So that's what happened.
You were kind of
I have to
narrowing
go
some
back.
of it down.
Yeah,
Regardless, like anything Willa does, it was quite impressive.
fantastic.
But anyways, there at the Sleepy Woodsman, before we got too much off topic, sorry about that. That was me. Anton's past seemed to kind of catch up with him. You want to touch on that some?
Yeah, the it was really tough because he respected Jane Rayborn. You know, that was his mentor. That was the one who gave him his chance, and he thought he could convince him that Avario was the real villain in the situation. So they're both very powerful warriors, worthy foes, which is why Anton just ran around the Sleepy Woodsman and tried to get a table in between them instead of actually wanting to fight, because he was convinced that he couldn't defeat the both of them at once, which might have been true. If he had stood his ground, he might be down a human fighter at this point.
The man nearly died.
Yeah.
Jane.
So we were lucky to
Jane
get out of
was-
there. Oh, and Gemma, was it you that you froze?
I
You
did.
froze them, right?
Yeah, I used a
Yeah.
subtle cast
that-
too.
really
Yeah.
changed the whole dynamic of the combat too, and it played out so beautifully. And
Yeah.
chef's kiss on how that happened was, just like freezing Avario with hold person, and then just like that whole interaction played out. So
I can't believe it worked for that long.
Yeah,
too.
I
Like,
know.
it was
I,
like 3
Barely got
rounds.
out of there.
I mean, actually, in regards to that, Wes, did you have kind of a different intention for the outcome of that encounter? Or was that kind of what you were expecting, was like the party to kind of deal with it in some capacity and run like they did?
I thought it would be I wasn't exactly sure what would happen. I think that I had outcomes for either position. If Anton kind of gave up, he would be taken somewhere, and you might have to rescue him. There is also the opportunity to, if you full on fought them, I don't think that would have gone well. Someone could have died. Jane is very powerful. And I thought Avario would be in the fight the whole time too. I didn't think that you'd be able to face them one-on-one, but
Yeah,
the
slipping
whole
out of there
person
was
threw me off. And slipping out was probably the best solution for everyone. So that was probably the best outcome.
We downed one of them. We knocked him out. You think we could have ganged up on Jane? Would it have been possible?
Jane is much more powerful than Avario.
Gotcha. Out of our level.
Jane's an actual knight. Jane's an actual knight. Avario is a hopeful
Nah,
knight.
you got this.
I still like how Willa. I think Willa checked him too, though. Like as she was running out, just did a big, like
Okay.
a
Push.
shove too.
Yeah.
Like you were rolling really well, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Willa
She's a
shoved
beast.
Jane to the floor at the very beginning.
Right. She felt
She was
guilty
like,
doing
"Whoa."
that for sure. Doing that to authority. She was like, ooh.
Sorry.
She didn't
I think
feel
even
good.
Mike, you call it like, oh, good thing they're not still knights, because that would be like a felony.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Assault on,
Yeah.
on law enforcement, right?
Yeah.
Get that gem dragon born. Get her. No, but I think
getting out
Anton. Yeah, Anton showed a lot of restraint too, and I think that was, like you were saying, that's probably one of the best choices for us, because
Well-
you and I mean, Justin, you had even made sure that Gemma was clear, and you were concerned about the safety of your friends, or at least her. Knowing that
Yeah.
Willa and Razzie could probably take care of themselves.
Well, Anton's shown that he's got an ego on him when it comes to fighting and being a warrior, but his number one mission, he needs a mission, and his number one mission is to protect Gemma. So if he realized this fight's going to go south, like, he doesn't care about whether he has to run around the tavern like a coward hiding behind tables. It's like he just needs everyone to get out of there.
Just throwing mugs and
Yeah.
plates.
Yeah, someone called food fight or something, right? Was that Razzie?
That was the thing.
It was-
I was convinced we
Mm.
could start a food fight and
Yeah.
run away in the
I was pretty
chaos.
sad about
But it
that.
just- Wes wouldn't
I think
give
I
it-
threw a plate.
Yeah.
It
No, you
catch.
did. You did an improvised weapon, a mug at Jane. I think it was
Right.
just like a,
Ah, yeah.
Wes was just like, no.
I thought. Well, what I
No.
thought is, I thought I could turn all the NPCs into conscripted fighters. But yeah, Wes was having.
Well, you
none
did
of that.
start
It's a
partially help.
distraction.
You helped. Well, no, you helped
did.
part of the riot.
yeah.
You did. Yeah, that
Let's
had
start
an
a riot.
influence on
And
people.
riot.
And
Did the riot help
there was
us?
more of a fight. It was a lot of a distraction,
I don't think it
for everyone
mechanically.
else. There were
helped
people
him.
trying to escape. No, didn't mechanically help them. They weren't going to throw themselves in front of the knights.
Mm.
The knights are,
It's true.
they're Damarian knights. They're a big
Yeah.
deal. So, but there were people trying to leave. There were people fighting each other. There were those drunk barbarians who were like fighting people off, who kind of
Oh, yeah.
distracted from things
There's a
happening.
last
It was just a
Right.
magnificent scene, if
The
nothing
last
else.
hurrah.
The last hurrah was there.
there.
I wanted to
Yeah.
bring them into it too.
Oh yeah, you guys met the last hurrah there. Let's touch on that.
Yeah, they when you guys
Yeah.
were gambling, I think it was a good opportunity for Willa and Gemma to go and meet them. Being an all-female party, I think that was kind of cool. Just kind of going over there, and Willa, I think you were very wide-eyed and wanting to adventure anyway. So I think that was, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, she really looked up to them, like learning. She wanted to know everything about them. She would have loved to get them into our party, like like how we did with South Mill, just like keep the whole gang, just keep going into like a 10-person group.
We're like the
She would have been
Warriors,
all for that.
Or you could have just ditched
Suddenly-
us. You could have been like, "Hey, can you guys use?"
Suddenly, more than
Yeah,
half the
right,
party
you
of the campaign is played by Wes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have like a
Willow just
23
joins the
person
last round.
initiative.
It's like,
Yeah.
hi.
Yeah.
It's truly a one-man show.
That would have been awesome. But
The
we were
last
supposed
hurrah
to
was,
race- What?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to comment
was
on
just
how
saying
we
that,
were going to go to the ruins with them. Sorry.
No, Mike, go. Wes, shut
No.
up.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that the last hurrah was
I tried.
a fun little last minute inclusion on my part. I thought it was just like it would be cool to like end this tavern, have I mean there's other adventurers in the world, right? So just having another adventuring party that exists, I thought might be interesting. Didn't expect it to go where it went, you know, like I thought that they would just be an adventure party. You ended up talking to them and they ended up escaping. They were just on their way to the ruins. I didn't know at that point, I didn't know if you were going to the ruins. At that point I thought you were just going to continue on the road, but this path was presented to you. Do you want to go to these elven ruins and possibly get some treasure and some adventure, or do you want to keep going, you know, north along the road? And you chose to go towards the ruins. So that's when you kind of interacted with them more because that's what they were doing. So that's
I
how
think
that
was
fell in.
more of a not even just going treasure seeking at that point, but us knowing that Jane and Navaria were after us. It was. I feel like that was part of the reason I suggested it was like if they know that we're headed north, then maybe we should cut. And hey, they just told us about this other place. Maybe we can lay low there for a little bit, and then hide out while they essentially pass us. You know, try to have them lose our trail.
Speaking of the ruins, actually, that's kind of where y'all ended up next. Was the ruins of Yelquinel. What do you think of your experiences there as player characters?
1 star.
Cool
Good.
fights.
Jeez.
Fighting on the wall.
Almost
Favorite part.
died.
I think it's
so
pretty
many
brutal.
times.
I think it's
Yeah.
pretty brutal for everyone. Yeah.
Is that where I got the armor?
Yeah.
That one story got
Yes,
me.
that is cool.
Yeah. Sand room, water room.
1 star.
I mean, like, if I could rate a lower, I would.
Well, we had
Yeah.
to do math.
You mentioned that before.
Yeah. It's a good
I
one.
lot
think
of
we
thinking.
spent a whole episode in one room in that, which is like the slowest we moved in the campaign. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a bad episode. Like watching you idiots try to figure out how this puzzle worked behind the scenes.
100%.
Like I was like Charlie and I were yelling at each other. Wes and I were yelling at each other behind the scenes. Like
100%.
we need to move this along, but it was
God damn it. Like,
Was it the water
fantastically
room?
hilarious watching you guys deal with that.
It was the water room, and Salva Mills doing like backstrokes and stuff. While
With the statues,
and the
yeah.
sand, the sand room. And the
It's like,
sand
I'll be
room,
fine.
too.
I'm not gonna drown. That's Salva Mill
It
problem.
wasn't easy. It wasn't easy.
Oh, certainly. And I said you idiots. You guys are not idiots, clearly. But like it was just
that's fair.
watching this one puzzle give you such pause was a great moment.
It was also I would say too, as a player, it was the time pressure and the rolls. Like, because we weren't necessarily successful. Well, Virgema, she's got a very, very low strength, so some of that stuff was harder for her to accomplish. Because I think we had to do strength checks to move the statues, and on her turn, essentially, she couldn't do a lot. So that's a turn wasted. And then when we were eventually trying to figure out what to do, that was kind of working against us as well, of course. But I think that's fair because it took us quite a while to figure out. Thank God we had Solomon there because he's the only one that read Elven or knew Elven to actually have the clue. So.
It's almost as if having the DM in the party with you helps you move along in the story. But Mike, Gemma, during that whole kind of mini arc, for lack of a better term, ran into a couple of qualms there with events that happened in other players and choices. Do you want to touch on that at all?
What was that part? What do you mean?
with Anton.
In the ruins?
Him trying to give himself up.
Oh,
fights?
at the end,
yeah,
afterwards, yeah. There were, and again, I think that sort of
Well,
plays. Yeah, we
before
can
you
circle
get to
back
that
on
part.
that. No, I do want to touch
Yeah.
on that, but that's a good point to
I
bring.
do want
Yeah,
to
it
touch
also
on that too. But
Came away with.
I think
from that
I don't
dungeon
want
with
to
a fair
miss out
amount of loot.
on.
Yeah, we got a lot.
Right. I don't want to miss out on the loot and what Anton's moment was before that thing with getting the armor. So, Justin, I kind of want to hear from like your perspective when you were, in that last room. First of all, and for Gemma too, her dancing and that whole conflict. Everyone's perspective about the ghosts and the vanished there, and then into Justin's perspective and viewpoint of getting that armor.
Yeah, well, I had felt hobbled for a while because my armor was damaged, so my AC was really low. I don't remember what happened. Somebody spit like acid or something on my
It
armor.
was the black goo in one of the
black goo.
The black puddings.
puddings, yeah.
Black
Dissolved yours, Willa's and Razik's armor.
and Will's
Such
and
a
Razik's.
food-centric podcast.
So
Yeah,
that made me feel pretty hobbled, but so it was really genuinely exciting when I got the plate of the arch heart, which upped my AC, and then I've got a cool special ability which does
Really
damage
cool
to anybody that hits me or attempts to do damage. So yeah, I mean, I really feel like Anton needs to be a tank, and so he felt ashamed of his low AC.
You know what was cool about that part too, where we were getting the treasure, is that Razik had the slippers of spider climbing. He got really early in the campaign, and it really just came in handy because he was able to pretty much circumvent the shifting sands in order to scoop up all of that treasure for us. And
He was
especially
basically able to ignore the puzzle.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, that was
First
awesome.
time
He was
it's-
like wall running. Yeah.
First time I really got to use it. Like,
Yeah, sure. But it came in so handy when you got it so early in the game, and I think out of that, Willa also got her adamantine armor too. That now you can't get credit.
She definitely
Now you
did
can't
as
get credit.
well.
Yeah, and Anton's all buff now with his new shiny new armor.
I mean, Anton's always been buff. Let's be real.
He's felt.
But before we move further on the story, after discussing the kind of loot we saw from that dungeon, I think it's probably time for another break for our intrepid heroes here. So we will see you guys in about 5 minutes. And anyways, that's when I told him he should go to hell. Like it was just,
hey, everyone.
I never expected the president of France to be such a bore.
Talking about when our players went to hell, of course. No, but we will get to that in a moment. So during the ruins of Yelquinel, we also had some, aside from the revelation of our intelligence, as it were, we also had some additional revelations there among the characters, if we want to touch on that some. I'm specifically calling out Will in this case.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually, so she reveals her spectral wings. I wanted to kind of be part of the storyline somehow. That's kind of part of her like gem dragonborn identity. I actually got that back at level 5, so I have been saving it for a couple of levels for it to make sense with the story. I honestly kind of forgot about it at one point, but yeah.
I will say you have been excellent about being able to hang on to these really cool things and reveal them at like pivotal moments. It's made for really great like story beats.
A lot of
Excellent
restraint. Showing a lot of
Awesome.
restraint. Yeah.
Awesome. And a little bit of it is that like there's so much to kind of track. It's like Gem Dragonborn, Blood Hunter, the like change and the like it's hard to track all the skills as well. So if I ever forget something, Wes, and in like a couple of levels, maybe like nudge me, be like, hey, you're gonna have to use that.
Also, the patience paid off, though. I mean, it was revealed. I think it couldn't have been revealed at a more perfect moment up until where we were at that point. You know, it's you saved yourself with it, and it was it's a great reveal for all of us because we're like, oh my gosh, she can fly now too. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's
I
like
feel
a
like she's
natural
truly been the
instinct.
queen of reveals.
Yeah, for sure.
What will come next?
There's
We
more.
can find out.
There's more.
Got
I
more
don't
of
know. I
Nice.
don't know, maybe.
Great.
So there were a few other events that happened in and around the ruins of Yelquinel that were pivotal, such as running into some Damarian knights that you interacted with. Do you want to touch on that?
Well, I interacted with them. I mean, killed them.
I mean, that is still an interaction, is it not? It's just a very deadly
Yeah.
interaction.
Well, Anton expected them to be a lot more powerful than they were, and he also didn't know he was going to roll as high. So that's why he again tried to avoid a conflict that was going to get somebody killed. But then, like, he ended up rolling like a beast and killing her in 2 turns, if I remember
I
correctly.
mean, Anton is just a beast. Let's be real.
Yeah. So then that was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I didn't have to, but I didn't know. I mean, she's Damari Knight.
I mean,
So,
accidents happen, right? Spilt milk.
Yeah. Sometimes Anton drops his sword.
I liked at that moment too how almost emotionally invested our characters got into seeing the last hurrah being held captive by these people. They were being used to have us turn ourselves in essentially, but then it ended up being that they were just looking for a fight anyways. But when the leader Adina
Lady
Yeah.
Lady
Yeah.
Venora Hathaway.
No, the one that got killed, the leader of the last hurrah who got
Adia.
got cut down. Adia, right? When she got cut down, I know that I got upset and Willa got upset, and like Razik jumped in there and jumped over and did a psychic knife at the guy that killed her. I thought that was a really cool moment in my head, very cinematic, where we are just like everyone just went out to attack and work together.
I think that was it seemed to work out in that moment where everyone was like, whoa, shit, she's dead. She's dead. She did.
That was probably
we fucked
Willa's
up.
first time losing control over her lycanthropy and changing because of her anger. I think I missed the next episode, or like some of the beginning of the next episode. I was out for that. But she definitely has feelings about the fact that she killed people in that form. Like she wasn't able to control herself. So that's something that she's thinking on, and maybe I'll bring it up going forward. But
great, that's awesome. Actually,
there's no such thing as a wyvern poop.
Wyvern poop?
Just like boop.
Like your little
boop.
damage.
I also heard poop.
I thought you said poop.
Am I missing something here?
Yeah,
I was like, did she eat
Something-
them? Did this go darker
Something
than I
Lily
thought
is
it did?
definitely known for is her, instead of like
Cannibalism.
slashing or bludgeoning damage, I think we've called it boop damage in the past, where she tries to be non-lethal with her attacks. And a wyvern cannot so much deal boop damage.
You eviscerated the one dude, like claw swipe, and you just gutted him too. It was pretty brutal, and I think that was not out of character for Willa, but her again just showed her other form. How she lost that control. I think again played really well.
We'll see where it goes.
Oh, 100%. I think we've seen some really cool cinematic moments like that throughout the campaign that we haven't really necessarily touched on in this episode. That would just make, I don't know, great situation or scenario art. But
Absolutely.
touching back on something,
love to see some art.
it would be excellent. I mean, if only we didn't have to pay for it every time,
I know.
Or I say Wes. Well, wait till your next birthday. We'll give you a new piece of art or something. But something I touched on momentarily as we came back from break was our players went to hell. you guys kind of want to talk about the events leading up to that and being there, fighting what you did?
That was our next stop, right? The Redguard Keep.
Yep.
After moving the
next
room.
next big stop, you passed the halfling farm, which we need to go into detail there, but you then moved on to moving north and knew that Anton knew that Redguard Keep was a place that you could stay at. I want to kind of hear your all perspective of getting there and playing through that whole thing.
Yeah, so really briefly for the listeners, like that was kind of a safe space for us, right? Because like the Red Guard were opposed to the Damari.
Good point.
Right?
Yeah.
So
The
I just wanted
Everwatch,
to highlight that.
So the Everwatch are basically, well, we'll get into more of the details of what they actually do, but they seem to be sort of this mysterious protector organization that seem to be protecting this aspect of the realm, partially, or at least were once a part of the Damarian Empire and have since broken away from it because they use magic for a very specific reason. And so Anton had been aware of the Everwatch and the Redguard Keep with his time in the Imperial Army and knew that that they offered free lodging for travelers.
I think it was interesting too. It was kind of also illustrated just how much further away from the Empire we were, and how we were almost to our destination on the other side of the border. Like we're getting further from the reaches and like that their influence. Though I mean, of course they were ransacked and took the Nullstone and everything, but it's still just showing that this other place was able to kind of push back on some of their more imperious kind of laws and ways.
Yeah. The fact that they've been allowed to exist, right, means
Right,
they
yeah.
somehow walk that line between being tolerated and still sort of subtly working against the Empire.
And like Rob said, it was a safe place for us, and we felt that maybe we could be okay here.
And then we went to hell.
And then we went to hell. Right,
And then we
exactly.
actually had a portal to hell downstairs in the basement.
And it was safe temporarily.
What was that?
What was the Zach? I think he
Doesn't
was
matter.
asking what you said.
Nah,
Oh, damn, sorry.
Oh, yeah, we knew there was something mysterious that they were keeping there. We just had no idea it was a hellmouth.
Right.
Cold Hellmouth, too.
who knew
Yeah.
hell was cold?
Yeah.
Our adventurers had to prepare for that to some amount. We had at least a tiny bit of a shopping montage, if anybody wants to touch on that as well.
Yeah.
The fashion show.
Oh, where we get to do the montage of us trying on the furs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and everybody
Trying on the
describes the winter clothes they ultimately end up with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I
it's a
mean,
nice touch that it was cold. Something different.
not what we expected for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of wanted to do something a little different. I knew that I wanted to do a portal somewhere, and I actually went the opposite way. I actually went full fire for a while, and then well, if you ever get to Savamil's location, which is what he's trying to go to a volcano, I didn't want too much fire stuff going on. So I was like, oh, well, what's something different? Oh, hell might be interesting. Oh, how about a layer that no one's ever really explored before? This frozen layer of Stygia, which, yes, I did originally call Stygia, but in my defense, it looks like it's called that. But yeah, anyway, Stygia, the fifth layer of the Nine Hells, is a frozen wasteland. So I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then, yeah, that's where we kind of ended up down into the ice cave. I thought it might be kind of cool to like have it be like a literal hole down into the hells. a portal that is down there that this keep has sort of been built around it. This actual portal down into Stygia, but like this fortress has been sort of like slowly over hundreds of years been built around this like thing and trying to protect it and keep it, making sure that nothing can go through. And a little bit more lore behind it too is like they've tried to like collapse it, they've tried to like seal it completely, but there's always some means that things kind of come through. So they've sort of come to the conclusion that they just have to like watch it, protect it, and use that null stone to make sure that it's one-sided so nothing can come through the portal. So it's more of like trying to watch it, protect it, make sure that nothing's coming through, than just like sealing it off and like forgetting about it.
Yeah, we didn't push on that at all. We didn't ask questions about whether somebody opened a portal there or they built it around. So that's a good meta thing to know.
Yeah. You all just kind of accepted the fact that they're like, yeah, portal hell, whatever.
I guess this is our life now. We're just gonna.
That's been a lot of the campaign.
That's kind of stuff, right?
It really has.
Being in an ice
like,
hell of sorts too is like, it was pretty frustrating. Throwing a fireball at the bad guy and then it just like because he was by virtue of him being a devil, and it was like, oh fuck,
That he was boned, right? He wasn't even ice.
It was a devil.
Bone devil.
So I mean, like
He's a bone devil.
Mechanically.
So
so it's like
they're immune to fire.
Oh.
But I actually forgot when you threw it at the devil, I had forgotten about the immunity, and then that's why I even like rolled the save, and then I was like, oh, well, and then I was like, oh, let me check the resistance or immunity resistance. Oh,
it happens.
It's immune to fire.
That happens.
and you're like, the ice devil is immune to fire.
Bone devil and devil is in there. So.
If nothing else, we should be famous for our swapping of terms and misunderstanding of them.
Oh yeah, no, I think we were like demon for a while. Like if that would have made a difference, anyways. So.
Demons and devils very different in the D&D world. But last thing we should probably bring up too is segueing into Gemma's big reveal there, with the spectral wings blowing out, and then like her hair burning back. And Mike, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Our own Phoenix.
Yeah, I think it was just another one of those transitions that I feel like you thought was a great opportunity to do it, since we were in hell. Just her what's the word? Not ethereal, not radiant. Essentially, what's the word I'm looking for?
Necrotic?
I would help you, but I don't know.
I know. See now, her being in that sort of angelic form was
celestial.
Celestial. Thank you. Oh God, it was a good sort of juxtaposition from where we were, and
yes,
I don't know what exactly. Maybe
in hell.
Maybe we're gonna get into it more of why that actually manifested in her wild magic surge, and why that actually came out. Maybe we're just creeping closer to seeing more of Gemma's powers, but I thought it was kind of cool just being in hell and just going full celestial at that point.
That was a cool moment.
I did message Mike before the episode, and I was telling him that I did want this particular thing to be revealed in this final battle. Because I felt like it felt like it was time, and it was also things have been kind of cluing in. You saw that she healed Adia, brought her back to life, which was just a great moment. And just you have a lot of her wild magic that's surging, but there's also some clues that we've all been seeing of something more. There's a little bit more than just this wild magic. There's something celestial about Gemma, and we're going to get more into that really soon. but that's kind of like a little tease of things that are going on with Gemma, and I think we're going to hear about it very.
I
much
feel
more
that
soon.
like Gemma with her magic too, she's just like a creature of emotion. So also at that part where she saw Willa go down, that maybe kind of helped bring it out of her, because you know how much she cares about Willa, and then seeing her go down, probably she just lost it. You know, I think it just kind of all came out at once too. Again, just some of that stuff in our game has lined up really well, and I feel it's very cinematic in my head that these things go together.
It worked out really well.
Yeah, a lot of the big reveals, I mean, between player choice and just storytelling, have occurred at such good moments. It's been a fantastic reveal. I mean, even though talking about the end of the last episode, it left me questioning Gemma's race, even, because like to this point we thought she was human, and I'm like, coming out of that, I'm like, is she though? Like,
Is she?
yeah, like that's a
Angel.
big thing that just happened.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that more, which
Mm.
will, I mean, in our next talks, I think that it will bring up more interesting things to talk about, revolving around like their place in the Empire and the way that their society works.
So during that fight, has anyone yet been as close to death as Willa was? Had failed a saving throw?
God, Razik almost died. Oh, you mean like
Yeah.
gone to 0?
Yeah.
Razik was like on
I've almost died a couple
2
times.
hit points. Oh my god!
I've gotten into the negatives before.
Did anyone? I think you were the only person that's gone unconscious, right? At that point.
Has anybody rolled
I
death
feel like
saves?
someone else went.
I
Maybe.
feel like Anton's been being up a few times.
Yeah.
No one's done a death save yet.
Yeah,
Sodom
I
was
feel
always
like
there.
Anton went. Yeah, Sodom was
Guiding,
always there.
guiding bolt.
Guiding bolt X Machina.
I feel like Willa getting the net, like automatically losing the first one was probably the closest that we got.
Did she?
That was scary.
fall?
That was scary.
She fell, and then when you receive damage when you're unconscious, you automatically lose a death saving throw. So she fell, received damage, automatically failed a death saving throw. Then she had 2 left. That's probably the closest we've got.
I can't
We knew our
remember.
player's biggest enemy was gravity.
Oh god, everyone falls.
Yeah, I know.
I can't remember, but I think I couldn't remember, but I thought I silvery barbs either an attack on Willa or on Razik, and I'm wondering if one of those saved either one of them, because an extra hit on Willa may have killed her completely, and an extra hit on Razik may have dropped him unconscious. But I don't remember how that went. I think maybe I stopped the first one on Willa's, but then the other, I think you had 3 attacks, so it was like claw, tail, and you ended up downing, missing with the first claw, hitting her with the claw, hitting her with the tail, and then that's when gravity took over and she lost the death saving throw from landing, right? Essentially.
It was a
Anyway.
lot.
Yeah, because it's like a
Every turn was a
D6
lot.
per 5 feet, I think, in falling,
Oh my
or
god.
10 feet. It can really
Really
end a player. It's
Yeah.
bad.
Ugh, I was actually Mike the player was feeling that, like, no, we can't lose Willa, no.
Yeah, if you actually go back and look at all the players' camera, you can see very visible split on just everybody. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
I mean,
But
there's
that last episode was excellent. Like that was a really, really the whole.
Did
Did
we
he
lose him?
freeze or is he
the
in
whole
deep thought?
what?
I know, I was waiting with
What
bated
a-
breath. I was like,
Oh,
oh, what?
I thought I
Oh,
froze out.
I think he's
Yeah, there he
back.
is.
Yeah, that's my
Speechless.
internet. Sorry, guys.
Woo, hey.
No
The
worries.
whole what,
The
Zach?
whole one, we're waiting with bated breath.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm
What'd you
just
say,
here
Zach?
for filler, anyways. I was just saying that whole mini hell arc was maybe the best of the show so far, and it was just like such cool visualizations and events that happened therein.
The spiders, my god.
Yeah.
Cool to hear.
The audience can have a little bit of hell as a treat.
God, Raz got
I will-
14 nat 20s.
Oh
in
my
that
God, those
episode.
crits.
Oh
Jesus
my God.
Christ. The
Yeah.
Pokemon was like, ah,
It's like-
ah.
Not today.
That was like, stop it! Stop!
it. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stand here and throw this, if that's okay. Yeah. that's
See,
gonna
Raz
be
is actually
59
vying for the
damage.
position of Bone Devil.
And he doesn't have any marks on him. It's just a bunch of things like, oh God.
Yeah.
What the fuck is
I will say that
So-
I enjoyed doing. I'm glad that we got to have like a boss villain, like such like a devil to face. You know, we haven't really had that before. We haven't really also had a lot of like supernatural elements, which is another reason why I wanted to inject just like a portal aspect into it to like kind of inject a little bit something different. You know, teleport you somewhere, have a little bit more high stakes, interesting dynamics, and then you can come back to where you were. And I liked having you all face this like devil villain. Might try and inject more of that. I don't know. We'll see.
Portals certainly always add like a really cool element of environment and displacement. But coming out of this adventure, I can certainly say that from this portal adventure, that this was a triumph.
Would you say it's a huge success?
It was a huge success, in fact. So moving forward, that was our last episode as it stands currently. Moving forward, is there any big things that your characters are looking forward to? Any reveals perhaps that you have pocketed that you don't have to reveal to here? Just like, oh, maybe. Or is there any thing you're looking to explore insofar as the story, the world, the continent, etc.?
Anyone want to
Yeah,
go
I've
Wanna
got
go
more.
first?
I mean, I'm super excited to see the dwarf's place, so we can see what Salvamil
Yes.
wants, and I want to see Salvamil's house. I want to go meet his family. I want to have dinner with his parents.
But isn't that in
I just
the East
those
Coast?
are
Are you
my
just
two
gonna-
big ones. Those are my two, and I
Gonna
want to see
bring with you some
Pangean.
bacon and chicken.
We're not
I
going to.
wanna
the South
see
Side,
Pangean.
right? Aren't we going?
No,
Okay,
no,
Pangean.
You're not going to
back
the
there,
South.
right.
I assume we will eventually. Like we've got time.
Let's circle back through the
Maybe in the,
Yep.
the campaign.
You
might-
never
like
know
one and a
where
half
portals
years
are going to
from
take
now.
you.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see more of everybody's story reveal because, like we were saying before, we don't ask each other enough questions, and here we're actually putting certain things together. But piece by piece, everyone has been revealing a little bit at a time, and when it all comes together, and maybe to finally see how it all connects, if it all does, will be. I'm hoping it's going to be sort of like mind blowing.
Yeah.
Wes,
I think it'll be
right?
No pressure, Wes.
No pressure.
Fucking pressure.
All right,
I look
okay. You know what?
forward
I
to-
just want it to be okay. How about that?
Yeah.
I just want to see more
I like
Willa
it,
reveals because she's been so good about pocketing them and revealing them just at great
Oh,
moments.
no.
I don't doubt that she's got like 3 more giant plot points she's just hiding from us right now.
I grab her like, why don't you grab her by the overalls? Hey, what do you? What else do you got in there?
Yeah.
We'll see.
I do hope we
Yeah.
find
Lots
out
of-
how we were all related to each other when we got arrested in the beginning.
We're cousins.
Oh, yeah, you're all siblings, actually, weirdly enough. But we will have to see what our future holds for all of our adventurers here today. Is there any, wrapping up here, is there any final words or final thoughts that people have?
Thanks
It's
for
a great
watching.
world you built.
Yeah.
We really love Galad.
Galatolon.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
Gelatin. We really like gelatin or whatever it's called.
Galabao,
really
whatever.
love whatever the fuck this place is
Especially
called.
that gang,
Yeah.
the bloody fist.
Bowling there.
The
Good part
bloody
of it.
fist.
That's what I'm looking forward to is the after
a good
campaign,
joke, yeah.
after credits, after
Red
the campaign,
Palms.
we go back to
Yeah, they're like
the place and get butter. Okay, we're gonna
get butter.
Oh,
get butter.
I have zero doubt
You're
this
gonna
party
get
is going to
butter.
circle around and kidnap Butter.
We need to also pay that dude back a visit from the Comcolt stables that put that tracker on us. We
Yeah.
owe him one actually. So
Yeah.
we'll be seeing you
Yeah.
guys after the campaign and the after credits screen. Steam.
Say it's not
Yeah,
about
we
the
actually
I do
have
wanna
Bruce
say-
Finger
it's
around.
about the side quests we ignored along the way.
Fantastic.
That
I
Lance.
do want to say that there's a lot of really interesting things that we're gonna really get into. I'm so excited to see where, for one, once we get out of the Empire, how different the world perspective will be for our characters. Jim will be able to do magic freely, and things will be very different, and that will bring a whole new perspective of a really interesting dynamic, I think. And then seeing where we go with the rest of the campaign and seeing our characters develop. And I just want to formally say that I love all you guys, and I think what we've created so far is pretty cool.
No.
And I can't
here.
wait to do another 2 years of this, and we'll see where we're at.
We'll almost be to the dwarves.
Well, hopefully we have at least another year, if not many more, coming for this podcast. As someone part of the crew, I do get to see a little bit behind the scenes, and this world is huge with many great and cool details. I don't know them all, but I have seen some. That being said, please tune in next week, June 28th, with episode 26, where we will be continuing our adventure from where we left off last. Don't forget to join our Discord, where we share silly images, episode discussion, perhaps thoughts of where our characters may go in the future, and general tomfoolery. This episode will be available on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms, like all our others. Don't forget, Wes will be streaming here soon some Magic the Gathering content, I believe on the 30th. Wes, is that correct?
That's right. June 30th, which is not this coming Friday, but next Friday. I'm gonna play some of the new Lord of the Rings set on Magic the Gathering, which I've kind of just dabbled into, and it's super cool. So if you feel like hanging around, I'm just gonna play some Magic the Gathering and have some fun. Welcome to join me, and yeah.
And we do hope to do more small side streams like that of perhaps doodle streams again from Hannah, or maybe more, magic content from Wes, depending on what you guys want to see or what we think is a cool thing to share with you. That being said, thank you so very much for watching and listening, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.